Hello there. In a world that never sleeps, neither does wonder. Welcome to the Sleepless Scrolls, where your imagination can roam even while you rest. Tonight you slip beneath the layers of time itself. The lights dim, the world outside fades, and the earth beneath your bed, yes, even that begins to shift, swell and breathe as it once did, hundreds of millions of years ago. Before birds, before flowers, before anything you might call a dinosaur. Tonight we journey back to when Earth was quiet. Where are you listening from, I wonder? Curled up in New York, drifting off in Karachi, half asleep in Tokyo with your phone lighting the pillow's edge? Whatever the hour, 2 a.m. or the hazy edge of dawn, remember to breathe gently, let your thoughts slow, and if your eyes close along the way, that's perfectly fine. Just don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a sleepy comment below so I know where you're dreaming from. Now, settle in. You stand at the edge of a primeval shoreline. There are no trees, no birdsong, no grass, no mammals, just endless heat and the scent of sulphur rising in the wind. The sky is a pale, hazy orange, as if the planet itself hasn't quite cooled from its formation, and truthfully it hasn't. You're in the late Permian period, over 250 million years ago, a time when Earth feels half-finished, painted in tones of volcanic black and rusty red. The oceans seethe with microbial life. On land, strange creatures, half reptile, half mammal, prowl among low, scrubby ferns. Creatures like Dimetrodon, with a sail on its back like a suncatcher, bask on sun-baked rocks. But this is not a dinosaur. Not yet. You wander slowly across a supercontinent known as Pangaea, one colossal landmass stretched from pole to pole. The air is dry. The wind, whispering secrets through jagged stone canyons, carries dust from what will someday be Antarctica, so where future North America will rise. Beneath your feet, the tectonic plates are uneasy. You feel them twitch in the bones of the earth. Pressure is building. A lonely pine-like tree creaks in the hot breeze. Nearby, a synapsid, the ancestor of all mammals, sniffs at the wind. It's a lizard dog thing with whiskers. You crouch low, watching it move like a shadow over the cracked ground. This creature, not quite reptile, not quite mammal, holds the key to your own distant story. But its time is running out, because the silence is about to be broken. Without warning, the earth groans. A volcanic rift splits the land. Gas, lethal, invisible, hisses into the air. You stumble, coughing. Lava doesn't just spill, it floods. For thousands of years, the Siberian traps erupt in waves, pouring rivers of fire that poison the oceans and blot out the sky. Nearly everything dies. It's called the Great Dying. 90% of life gone, and yet you remain, wandering now through ash-fogged forests. You walk past the still bodies of creatures you don't yet have names for. Ferns curl in on themselves. The seas go anoxic. Dead zones stretch across the globe. And for a time it seems Earth might rest in silence again. But no, from this desolation, life begins to stir. Tiny, nimble archosaurs, ancestors of both crocodiles and dinosaurs, begin to scatter across the newly forming Triassic world. They are quick, with upright limbs and alert eyes. You spot one, Euparkeria, less than a metre long, its tail twitching like a cat's. It scurries through the ferns, watching the sky as if expecting something. And maybe it is, because something is coming. You sit now by a cracked stream bed as night falls. No stars shine, the ash still hangs heavy. But in the darkness, beneath your feet, something evolutionary clicks. An ancient twist in the DNA, perhaps no more than a random mutation. One lineage begins to rise. Tiny proto-dinosaurs like Nyasasaurus, only 3 feet long, begin taking their first quiet steps toward what will become the age of giants. Their bones are still delicate, their reign not yet certain. But they move with purpose, they walk upright. They run balancing with long tails. You follow one as it darts through cycads, hunting insects. It freezes, listens. A low growl rises from the bushes. A much larger creature, Postosuchus, emerges, a predator more crocodile than dinosaur, but you're terrifying all the same. Armoured and snarling, you feel the air thicken with tension. You duck low beneath a fern, it passes, and silence returns. Oddly enough, there are still no flowers, not for another 100 million years. The landscape is a palette of greens and browns, and above it all, the sun still burns too bright. Scientists still argue whether dinosaurs first evolved in South America or Africa, but either way, it was here, in this moment after annihilation, that something extraordinary began. A quirk of fate, a roll of the genetic dice, a survivor's quiet persistence, and so, as the earth rotates beneath you tonight, remember, the dinosaurs rose not during peace, but from the ashes of apocalypse. And yet you, soft-skinned, small-brained, fragile you, probably wouldn't have survived that silence, not even a little. But tonight, you do. You keep walking forward, one foot after the other, into a world slowly learning to breathe again. You walk forward through time, through a world that is hot, dry, and uncertain. The earth groans beneath shifting plates. Rain comes and goes in unpredictable fits. The plants you pass seem alien. No grasses, no flowers, only thick, fibrous ferns and towering conifers like pillars holding up a heavy sky. The year is somewhere around 230 million BCE. You are deep in the Triassic. And then you see them, not the towering beasts of museum posters, not yet, but their ancestors, the first true dinosaurs, now stirring among the sunlit valleys of what will one day be South America. The air feels thinner here, the ground dry and cracked. You crouch low and watch as something sleek darts across the orange soil. It's called Eoraptor. Barely over a metre long, this small creature is fast, nervous, agile. It runs on two legs, tail stiff for balance. Its hands, three-fingered and nimble, clutch a struggling insect, maybe a dragonfly the size of a robin. It doesn't roar or stomp. It chirps, almost bird-like, its head cocked with a curious intelligence. It is not quite a predator, not quite a scavenger, something in between. You follow it as it scampers through the red-leafed undergrowth weaving between cicadas and horsetails. You're not alone. To your left, a herd of Ischigualastia, herbivorous, barrel-bodied creatures with wide snouts, amble lazily through a riverbed, their skin thick and wrinkled, like hairless elephants. They're not dinosaurs, but something older, stranger. Their days are numbered. And to your right, something watches them. Herrerasaurus, one of the first real dinosaur predators. You freeze. It's about twice the size of Eoraptor, with strong legs and curved claws. Its teeth are serrated, blade-like. You can almost hear its breath as it exhales softly, lowering its head toward the herd. Unlike the crocodilian predators of earlier times, Herrerasaurus walks tall, balanced, calculated. You can feel the evolutionary shift in its stance, more bird than lizard. It isn't just chasing food, it's stalking, planning. Evolution has taken a sharp turn, and you are standing right in its path. You step back slowly. The air tastes metallic, the scent of ancient soil and blood mixing in the wind. The chase explodes, the herd scatters, and Herrerasaurus lunges with terrifying precision. One of the slower animals stumbles, legs buckling, and you look away just before impact. The world is speeding up. Everything is faster, sharper, more efficient. You climb to a ridge and look across this new earth. Dinosaurs, small, fast, clever, are spreading. They aren't the largest creatures yet, but they're better suited to the volatile Triassic world. Their bones are lighter, their legs positioned beneath their bodies, not sprawled to the sides like their competitors. This means they can run, hunt, escape. You notice something else, the growing divide. Two paths begin to emerge. On one side, Saurischians, the lizard-hipped dinosaurs like a Herrerasaurus and the future Tyrannosaurus. On the other, ornithischians, the bird-hipped lineage whose descendants will include horned, armoured, and duck-billed dinosaurs. It's like watching a tree split at its base, two trunks rising from the same root. And so begins a quiet conquest. You travel with them, across time, across shifting continents. You move northward as Pangaea slowly begins to crack. Volcanic rifts carve rivers of fire between the plates, and shallow seas creep into the interior. As ecosystems fracture, dinosaurs diversify. What started as a handful of small, opportunistic creatures becomes a rising wave of evolution. Still, they're not alone, for now other archosaurs still share the land. You pass massive Rauisuchians, predators even larger than the early dinosaurs, their bite stronger than that of any land animal alive today. You spot ancient relatives of crocodiles who walk upright on long legs, chasing prey like wolves. It's still anyone's game, but then something changes. You feel it in the wind, in the soil. The Triassic is ending, and the Earth is about to reset again. A slow extinction unfolds. Not as violent as the Great Dying before it, but deadly all the same. Massive volcanic eruptions begin to choke the sky with carbon dioxide. Oceans turn acidic. Temperatures spike. Plants wither. The atmosphere fills with ash. You walk through the decline like a dream. Familiar species vanish. Entire clades of reptiles, amphibians, and fish fade from the fossil record. And yet one group weathers the storm. Dinosaurs. How they survived remains a mystery. Scientists still argue whether it was their rapid metabolism, efficient lungs, or flexible diets that gave them an edge. Maybe it was all of these. Maybe it was luck. But one thing is certain. When the sky's clear, they are still here. And suddenly, they are everywhere. It is the dawn of the Jurassic. A new era, and the dinosaurs rise not as survivors, but as rulers. You stand atop a cliff looking down at a river valley teeming with life. Herds of long-necked sauropodomorphs graze among ferns. Predators prowl the forest edges. Small feathered forms flit through the canopy, chirping quietly. The air feels fuller, warmer, alive. The giants are coming, but before we meet them, pause here. Let the Triassic whisper its secrets to you one last time. You remember Eoraptor and Ararosaurus, those fragile pioneers whose bones now lie fossilized beneath layers of rock and time. You recall the dry wind, the strange plants, the uncertain footing of a world still figuring itself out. And now, that world belongs to the dinosaurs. You wake beneath a canopy of deep green. The world has changed again. It is quieter now, humid, and filled with the buzzing of insects that have grown fat on the jungle's abundance. You rise, brush ancient leaves from your shoulders, and step into the full light of the Jurassic. Welcome to a planet ruled not just by dinosaurs, but by their strange and powerful cousins. You're in the early Jurassic now, around 200 million years ago, and the Earth has calmed since the last extinction. The continents are still mostly joined, but they've begun to rift, forming shallow inland seas that steam in the warmth of a greenhouse world. Rain comes often, and the forests are thick. Cycads and ginkgos rise beside tree ferns, forming dense, layered habitats. You walk slowly through them, swatting at a dragonfly the size of your forearm. This is the age of the archosaurs. The word might sound obscure, but you've already met them. Archosaurs are the ruling reptiles of the Mesozoic, the ancestors of both crocodiles and birds. Dinosaurs are just one offshoot. In this moment in time, the family tree is still broad and wild, branching into wild shapes and sizes. You pass by a group of early crocodilomorphs, nimble dog-sized reptiles that sprint on long legs and chirp at each other like birds. They don't yet resemble the sluggish crocodiles of today. They're lean, fast, land-dwelling, with limbs tucked beneath their bodies and snouts sharp like scissors. You trail one down a muddy slope and watch it leap into a river, snapping up a fish with terrifying grace. A splash, a gulp, and silence. To your left, something larger stirs. Scelidosaurus. A four-legged herbivore with rows of small bony armour plating down its back, lumbering through the undergrowth. It's not fast, but it doesn't need to be. Those armoured scales discourage attack. Still, it pauses every so often, peering into the dark with nervous eyes. And no wonder. The predators are changing. You crouch by a rocky outcrop as something long-limbed and toothy lopes into view. Dilophosaurus, sleek and elegant, with twin crests arching over its skull. Its gait is fluid, a dancer's rhythm, and its yellow eyes catch the light with eerie awareness. It doesn't roar. It hisses. Scientists still argue whether the twin crests were for mating displays, for intimidation, or perhaps for temperature regulation. You don't know, but you can feel their menace as it glides past you. It's hunting, but not for you. You trail it through the trees, and soon the forest opens to a grassy flatland. Yes, early grasses are here in small patches, and across it, you see something enormous. Ankylosaurus, one of the early sauropodomorphs. Its neck sways like a serpent above the treetops. Not quite the skyscraper-sized giants of later epochs, but the shape is familiar. 4 massive legs, a barrel-like body, a tiny head on a long-reaching neck. It walks slowly, tail dragging slightly in the dirt, and with every step, the ground shivers. It pauses to nibble at a tree's crown, then bellows low and deep, a sound that vibrates in your chest. You step back, quietly awed. These creatures, once marginal and mouse-sized, have now begun to push upward, to defy gravity, to become icons of size and strength. And the competition? They're struggling. You pass fossils half embedded in the earth. The bones of Rauisuchians, those earlier Triassic predators, now lie forgotten beneath vines and creeping moss. Once the apex hunters, they've fallen, unable to adapt to the new rhythms of Jurassic life. But not all archosaurs are extinct. As you rest beneath a shady ginkgo, something shrieks above. You look up, and the sky is no longer empty. Pterosaurs. Not dinosaurs, but close relatives. You see one now, gliding on leathery wings stretched between elongated fingers. It dives, catching a gust of warm air, and soars again. Some are the size of pigeons, others rival small airplanes. They don't flap often, energy is conserved. Instead, they rise and fall on thermals, their crests slicing the wind like ship sails. You follow one's flight and notice something curious, a covering on its body. Not scales, not bare skin, fuzz. Early pterosaurs, and possibly early dinosaurs too, were covered in primitive proto-feathers. Not the sleek veins of modern birds, but tufts and filaments. Warmth, display, perhaps even tactile sensitivity. For a long time we imagined them as cold-blooded monsters, but now they feel more like strange ancient cousins. You climb a gentle slope and stop to take in the view. Below, the Jurassic unfolds in all directions. Herds of Cerosaurus graze in open fields. Packs of Coelophysis, small nimble carnivores, dart among tree shadows. Every inch of the landscape pulses with movement and strategy. This is no mindless chaos. It's a vibrant ecosystem of roles and relationships, like a grand orchestra warming up for the symphony of the late Jurassic. It's easy to forget that these creatures are as real as the birds outside your window. But listen closely, can you hear it? That rhythmic thud of footsteps through the undergrowth. That shrill cry in the distance. These sounds once echoed across a planet lit by twin moons and shrouded in steam, and you are walking inside it. Still, not all is harmony. The climate is changing again. Sea levels rise and volcanic activity increases along the new continental rifts. With these shifts come both opportunity and risk. New niches emerge, and with them new species. But the Earth is never patient. Those that cannot adapt are left behind. You pause by a shallow marsh. Dragonflies skim the surface. Beneath, a turtle the size of a dinner plate rests motionless, algae clinging to its shell. Suddenly, a shadow darts across the water, a fish with teeth like scissors. It snaps, and the dragonfly vanishes. Everywhere you look, life is evolving. Harder shells, sharper teeth, more complex behaviours. You spot one small theropod chasing insects not with speed, but with stealth. It watches, waits, and strikes. a new kind of intelligence is emerging. Scientists still argue whether these behaviors are instinct or learning, whether these early dinosaurs acted with calculated thought or with finely tuned reactions honed by millennia. But as you watch the creature hesitate, tilt its head and test the ground with its toes, you feel something familiar, something almost human. The dinosaurs are no longer just survivors, they are thinkers, hunters, engineers of their fate, and in this brief, breathtaking moment you understand the rise has truly begun. The sun rises heavy and golden over a land swaddled in mist. You step carefully along a ridge of dark stone, warm underfoot from the breath of the sleeping volcano below. Your view stretches wide, across valleys veiled in ferns, rivers braided through lowlands and forests stirred by footsteps that echo across time. You are in the heart of the Jurassic now, and the silence is gone, because something is watching you. Beneath a curtain of hanging moss you freeze, and your gaze meets a pair of amber eyes, wide, unblinking, calculating. There, crouched in the ferns, a predator waits. It's no longer the skittering Eoraptor or the lanky Dilophosaurus of earlier epochs. This one is different, sleeker, smarter, Megalosaurus, the first dinosaur ever named by humans, though of course you don't know its name yet. You only know the stillness before the storm. It doesn't lunge, not yet. Instead, it tracks you, head low, tail outstretched for balance, each claw pressing softly into the mulch. You back away, heart thudding in your throat. The forest seems to lean in, holding its breath. Then, with a flick of its tail, the beast vanishes into the gloom. You're still alive, for now. You press on through tangled undergrowth. The forest pulses with life, but beneath that hum is a rising tension, a slow, creaking arms race of evolution. Predator and prey alike are changing, adapting. Every creature you pass seems locked in the quiet mathematics of survival. Eyes sharper, limbs stronger, strategies more refined. A herd of Camptosaurus moves in the distance, their gait clumsy but coordinated, heads low as they crop cycads. They're plant-eaters, ornithischians, part of the bird-hipped lineage that will one day give rise to horned Triceratops and duck-billed Edmontosaurus. For now, they're modest in size. You watch them flick their tails in warning, nudging juveniles toward the center of the herd. And suddenly you see it. Social behavior. These aren't just instinct-driven machines. They communicate with body language, nudges, head tilts, low grunts. Scientists still argue whether dinosaurs could vocalize the way birds and mammals do, but you feel something pass between them. A system of signs honed by generations to outwit the jaws in the trees, because jaws are always waiting. From the shadows emerges Allosaurus. Not the largest of predators, but perhaps the most balanced. 3 sharp claws curve from each hand. Its skull is ridged and scarred, and in its mouth, nearly 1 meter long, you count the teeth. Dozens of them, each shaped like a steak knife. Unlike T-Rex, which will come millions of years later, Allosaurus doesn't have a crushing bite. Instead, it slashes, opens wide, snaps fast, and lets its prey bleed out. Some paleontologists think it hunted in loose packs, using ambush and group tactics rather than brute force. Others argue it was a solitary killer. No one knows for sure. But you're watching one now. It lowers its body, breathes slow, waits. And then, an explosion of movement. The herd bolts, hooves pounding the soft earth. One juvenile stumbles. Allosaurus charges, legs pumping like pistons. The forest erupts in sound, branches cracking, panicked cries, and the deep roar of pursuit. You lose sight of the scene in the undergrowth, but you hear it. The struggle, the end. When you move again, it's quiet. A few torn leaves drift down like feathers. Life continues. It always does. You trek farther through this world, through corridors of tree ferns taller than your head. The scent of damp bark and pollen fills the air. You come upon a new scene, a group of Stegosaurus gathered around a sunlit clearing. You pause, breath catching. Nothing prepares you for their scale. Their backplates, each the size of a dinner table, rise like sails along their spines. Their tails end in 4 lethal spikes, the thagomizer, as some paleontologists jokingly dubbed it. The name's stuck. You watch one swing it casually, like a cat flicking its tail, powerful enough to impale even the jaw of an Allosaurus. They seem slow, almost sleepy. But you notice the little things, how one keeps its body angled toward the sun, warming the plates like solar panels. Scientists once believed the plates were for defense, but newer theories suggest thermoregulation or visual signaling, possibly even species recognition. Whatever their purpose, they shimmer in the light, and you imagine a world not grey or dull, but painted in display, colourful, dramatic, alive. And then, softly, delicately, your path brings you back to the smallest of creatures. Among the roots of a conifer, something darts, barely visible, a flash of red feathers, a chirp. You kneel and spot a tiny Anchiornis, perhaps no larger than a pigeon, feathers fluffy and warm against the morning chill. It tilts its head at you, curious. And just like that, the entire history of birds shivers into view. This is not a side note. This is the future. You remember the massive predators, the armoured backs, the bone-crushing jaws. But this delicate feathered animal with its twitching tail and clever eyes, may be the most important one you've seen. Because from Anchiornis and others like it will come a revolution. Flight, not gliding, not leaping, true, powered flight, but not yet. For now you watch as it sprints along a log, leaps, flutters awkwardly into a nearby bush. You smile, the sky is calling. Above, a Rhamphorhynchus circles, long-tailed and bat-winged. Its cry rasps over the trees. Pterosaurs still dominate the air, but their time too will pass. Every moment here feels balanced on a knife's edge. Beautiful, yes, but temporary. Because nothing in this world is forever. The earth continues to shift. Pangaea is pulling itself apart, slowly but steadily. Oceans widen, mountain ranges rise, climate zones stretch and warp, migration routes change and species with them. New pressures form, new battles begin. You walk the length of a dry riverbed, passing skeletons washed clean by time. Here lies a small theropod, twisted on its side, its skull cracked open. There, a clutch of eggs, half buried and long abandoned. The rise of dinosaurs has not come without cost. Some will thrive, others will fade. But in this moment, this golden heartbeat of the Jurassic, they rule. You lie down in the grass beneath a tree whose lineage will vanish before the first flower blooms. Above you, a sauropod herd passes like living architecture, legs as thick as columns, necks swaying like cranes. They do not notice you. They rarely need to notice anything. You breathe in the dust they leave behind. This is a world of giants, of innovation, of elegance and terror in equal measure. A world halfway between oceanic silence and feathered chorus. A world evolving with you as you dream. And far in the distance, beyond what you can hear, the Cretaceous waits. The sky darkens. Not with storm, but with time. Millions of years pass beneath your feet as you cross the shifting edge of epochs. The Jurassic yields to the Cretaceous, and though the change is invisible, the world you step into feels subtly new. The air is warmer still, more humid. Plants crowd the landscape with unfamiliar colours and shapes. Something is different. Something has awakened. You kneel beside a stream, watching its glassy surface. Leaves float by, broad, veined, and not like the ferns and conifers of before. They're softer, more vibrant. You pluck one and turn it in your fingers. It's a flowering plant. For the first time in Earth's history, blooms exist. Petals, nectar, scent. You stand slowly and take in the landscape. The Cretaceous is not just another chapter. It is a revolution in green. Angiosperms, flowering plants, have erupted across the planet like a slow wildfire of colour. With them come bees, butterflies, and the subtle symphony of pollination. Everything is changing faster than ever before. But the giants are still here. You hear them before you see them. Rhythmic, booming steps like distant drums. The trees tremble. A low, harmonic call rises through the air. And then they emerge. Sauropods, but larger than before. Argentinosaurus walks in slow procession across a grassy plain, its body nearly as long as a blue whale's, towering 5 stories high. You feel like an insect in its presence. You don't run, there's no need. These are not hunters. Their eyes are soft, their movements careful, as if aware of their own immensity. A juvenile trails behind the herd, steps more hurried, unsure. You watch as the adults shift formation to protect it, instinctively, almost tenderly. This isn't chaos, it's choreography. And yet even these titans exist on borrowed time. As the earth grows more fertile, it also becomes more competitive. Predators adapt quickly, and no throne remains unchallenged forever. You make your way through a dense forest thick with magnolias and flowering shrubs. Small mammals dart between roots. Some resemble modern opossums, others are so shrew-like you nearly miss them. One pauses, sniffing the air. It looks at you with quick, shining eyes. You wonder what it sees. This time mammals are not the dominant ones. Not yet. From the undergrowth ahead, a rustle, then a low, steady growl. You freeze, heart pounding. Something stalks between the trees. You glimpse its shape through leaves. Massive legs, a muscular tail, and above all a skull like a jagged fortress. You know this one, even before it steps into view. Tyrannosaurus rex. It is not a myth, not a cartoon. It is real, and it is breathtaking. It moves with purpose, but not recklessly. Each step is measured. Its eyes, forward-facing, binocular, fix on a moving herd of hadrosaurs in the clearing beyond. You follow its gaze. The hadrosaurs are duck-billed, their backs ridged, their snouts flattened. One trumpets a sharp nasal alarm. The herd shifts into motion, their movements clumsy but urgent. T-Rex watches. It doesn't immediately attack, it considers, studies. Then it runs. For all its bulk, it moves terrifyingly fast, up to 20 miles per hour. Its feet crash against the ground like thunderclaps. The herd scatters, one hadrosaur slips in the mud, the predator is on it in seconds. You look away again. The moment passes. Later, scavengers arrive. Dromaeosaurs, smaller feathered theropods, pick at the remains with surgical efficiency. One of them, Velociraptor, though much smaller than movies would suggest, leaps onto the carcass, feathers fluttering, claws flashing. You watch from a safe distance. Its body is compact and bird-like, covered in feathers. Its killing claw, the curved sickle on each foot, lifts slightly as it moves, ready to strike but held with care. There is grace in its violence. Scientists still debate whether Velociraptor hunted in packs or fought alone. The fossil record gives us hints. 2 raptors fossilized mid-combat with a Protoceratops, for example, but never the full picture. Was it a social hunter, like wolves, or a solitary opportunist? Whatever the truth, the intelligence is there. It watches, it waits. You sense that this creature, more than many others, thinks. Not just reacts, thinks. You travel deeper into the Cretaceous, cross an earth that feels more familiar, more vibrant. Colours bloom on every hillside. Insects buzz through warm air. Small feathered dinosaurs hop through low shrubs, some flapping awkwardly, others climbing trees like parrots. You spot Microraptor, a 4-winged wonder gliding from branch to branch. Each limb, legs and arms alike, is feathered, forming a primitive set of wings. Its flight is not elegant, but effective. It glides between trunks, chasing beetles. You wonder if it dreams when it sleeps. And then, something you didn't expect. You come across a nesting site, not bones, not fossils, real nests, real eggs. You lie on your belly quiet, as a female Maiasaura tends her clutch. She uses her beak to gently rearrange the eggs, pushing loose vegetation around them. The name Maiasaura means good mother lizard, and it fits. You've never seen such deliberate care. She chirps softly. Nestlings, barely hatched, peep back from the shallow bowl of twigs and soil. They nuzzle under her body, eyes not yet open. She guards them fiercely, even as other adults in the herd keep watch on the outskirts. Scientists have found entire nesting colonies of Maiasaura, suggesting not just parenting, but community, cooperation, perhaps even empathy. You feel your throat tighten. These creatures, once thought monstrous, now seem familiar. Not mammals, no, but not machines either. They live, they feel, they grieve. You remember walking through time from the sulphurous stillness of the Permian to the lush plains of the Cretaceous. You've watched life climb from catastrophe again and again, adapting, diversifying, singing louder each time. The dinosaurs are no longer strange shadows. They are the dominant thread in this ancient song, and yet even now, you hear the undertone of an ending. The signs are subtle. You notice changing climate patterns, increased volcanic activity along what will become India. Species begin to vanish, not all at once but gradually, as if the Earth is forgetting their names. Scientists still argue whether dinosaurs were already in decline before the final blow came. Was it a slow erosion of biodiversity, or a sudden apocalypse? Perhaps it was both. But for now, as you lie in the grass, the sky golden above, the thunder of sauropod footsteps fading in the distance, the story has not ended yet. A breeze lifts through the trees. A Quetzalcoatlus soars high overhead, one of the largest flying creatures to ever exist. It casts a shadow longer than a bus, drifting soundlessly on wings that stretch over 30 feet wide. It is the last of the Sky Kings. And you're still here, walking, dreaming, breathing alongside them, these majestic, feathered, scaled, roaring, quiet, thunderous creatures who once ruled every corner of this world. They have risen, and the fall is near, but not yet, not tonight. You awaken to a vibration beneath your feet, subtle, rhythmic, like the world has a heartbeat. It's not an earthquake, it's movement, a procession, a living pulse rolling through the earth. You rise from a patch of flowering shrubs to find yourself on the edge of an ancient savanna. Here, beneath a late Cretaceous sun, a herd of sauropods passes, again. But these are not the same as before. The towering Argentinosaurus has vanished from this part of the world. You are now watching Alamosaurus, one of the last great long-necked giants, sweeping its tail in slow, deliberate arcs. Its bulk is breathtaking, but it no longer rules uncontested. Everything around it feels more competitive now, more layered. You glance to the left, a trio of Pachycephalosaurus browsing shrubs, their thick domed skulls gleaming in the light. They move warily, glancing up often. Their legs are quick, their eyes twitchy. You see two juveniles bump heads, not in violence but in play, or maybe practice. The purpose of their famous skull domes is still debated. Some say headbutting, others argue for flank bashing or mating displays. No one agrees, but the behaviour feels instinctual. And to your right, armour, not just bone plates, full suits of living defence. A Nodosaurus ambles past like a living tank, its body sheathed in osteoderms, skin thick as bark. Its head swings side to side, always low to the ground, snuffling for ferns. Behind it trails a Thyreophoran, smaller and spikier, alert to any rustle in the brush. This is not the gentle Jurassic anymore. This world is sharper, more strategic. You press forward through a shallow stream, startling a flock of birds. Real birds. You blink at the realization. Their wings flutter, their beaks clack, their calls echo across the water. They are not just feathered dinosaurs, they are dinosaurs. And something about that feels like an evolutionary riddle, wrapping back on itself. In this moment, you are surrounded by the descendants of one lineage and the cousins of another. You cross the water slowly, your reflection mingling with ripples. Something glides beneath the surface, a garfish, primitive and predatory. Insects buzz and hum, the plants are alive with movement. Even the trees feel aware, rustling with the touch of creatures hidden among their branches. And then, across the plain, you hear it. Not a roar, a low bellow. You follow it, Climbing a dusty ridge and peering down into a dry basin, what you see steals your breath. 2 Tyrannosaurus rex, a mated pair perhaps, stand shoulder to shoulder. One nudges the other with its massive snout. There is no battle here, no kill, just presence, affection maybe. Their scales glint. One's tail twitches at a fly. The other exhales deeply, causing a flock of primitive birds to scatter like confetti. You feel your chest tighten again, not in fear, in awe. Rex is the ultimate predator, not because of its size, but because of its balance. Its bite force exceeds that of any known terrestrial animal, capable of crushing bone. Its senses, sight, smell, hearing, are finely tuned. It is no lumbering beast. It is a sculpted apex born from eons of failure and refinement. Still, it has enemies. You spot a group of smaller theropods, Dakotaraptors, moving like wolves, weaving through tall grass with intelligence and coordination. They are feathered, sharp-eyed, and dangerous in groups. While they don't challenge T-Rex directly, they're opportunists, scavengers, thieves. The balance is delicate, and all around them? Herbivores. Vast herds of Edmontor. Montosaurus moving through the fields, honking and calling. Some carry crests, others have specialized beaks like pruning shears. The diversity is staggering. It's as though every niche on Earth is full, every corner buzzing with specialized creatures fine-tuned for their role in the ancient stage play of survival. You see Ankylosaurus lumbering like a spiked war machine, tail club twitching with each step. It could kill with one swing. Nearby, Triceratops stands vigil, its 3 horns gleaming. It seems calm, but that frill in those eyes suggests something more. A mind, alert and calculating, not to be underestimated. You walk among them, unnoticed but observant. The world hums with a tension that is not fearful but vibrant. These creatures live at the apex of their evolution. Every bone, every tendon, every instinct has been honed across millions of years. Their world is not primitive, it is perfect in its way, but perfection is fragile, and you begin to notice things. The seasons feel off, flowers bloom earlier than they should, insect populations shift strangely, certain species of ammonites and plankton far out in the oceans are vanishing. These aren't local effects, they're global whispers, and you know deep inside that the clock is ticking. You rest beneath the shade of a magnolia. Above, a pterosaur glides in slow circles, Nyctosaurus, with its strange backward head crest like a sailing mast. Its wings barely twitch as it moves across the thermals. You marvel at how flight has come so far since the flutters of Microraptor. Now, the sky holds giants, but even the sky will not protect them. Volcanic activity along what will become India is intensifying. The Deccan traps begin to erupt, spewing carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. These are slow, relentless outpourings, millennia of poison dribbling into the sky. Climate change accelerates. Ocean acidity creeps upward. Still, the dinosaurs march on. You watch hadrosaurs nest on the banks of a floodplain, constructing mounds of vegetation to cushion their eggs. You see a Therizinosaurus, long-clawed and feathered like a nightmare, pulling leaves delicately from branches. You hear calls in the night, some like honks, others like bassoon notes echoing through fog. Scientists still argue whether these animals vocalized in the way we imagine, through resonating chambers, perhaps, or low-frequency rumbles. But as you walk through this vibrant world, it's hard not to imagine a rich sonic landscape all around you. You sit quietly as stars begin to emerge above the plain. In the distance, a single T-Rex calls out into the dark, not in hunger, but something else. A declaration, a warning, a song. You realize something sitting there in the long grasses. You've stopped seeing them as monsters. You see families, rivalries, migrations, courtship displays, warning signs, complex interactions that hint at minds not so unlike our own. Driven by hunger, yes, but also by habit, memory, pattern. You reach down and touch the ground, warm from the day's heat. Beneath your fingertips, you imagine the fossil record forming. Bone pressed to sediment, sediment to stone, the echoes of these lives entombed in time, waiting one day to be discovered. But the Earth has other plans first. Because in the dark, far above you, something stirs. A rock, roughly the size of a city, moving fast and silent, veiled in nothing but vacuum and chance. But that's for later. For now, you're still here, and they are still alive. This world, the forests, the plains, the herds, the hunts, is still full, still breathing, still magnificent. And the footsteps of the giants have not yet ended. You wake before dawn, the sky still dark, filled with the low hum of insect wings and the soft rustle of leaves brushing against each other in the early breeze. Around you, the world holds its breath. And in that pause, quiet, golden, full of possibility, you feel something vast looming, though you cannot yet name it. You stand at the edge of a Cretaceous wetland, its surface shimmering with mist. Frogs the size of housecats croak from the mud, and dragonflies, some nearly a foot across, dart through the reeds. In the soft silt at your feet, delicate claw marks trace the wandering of small theropods, probably Trudon, whose curved toes leave tiny divots like commas in the earth. You crouch and study the tracks. There's hesitation in the step, a pause, then a hop to the side. Something startled it. You glance up, scanning the brush. There, a Trudon in the flesh, peering at you from the shadows. Its feathers are sleek and dark, catching the first hints of sunrise. Its eyes are enormous, reflecting what little light exists. And in those eyes you see awareness. This creature is not just surviving, it's thinking, calculating. Some paleontologists consider Trudon one of the most intelligent dinosaurs to have existed. Its brain-to-body ratio rivals that of early mammals. It may have hunted cooperatively, raised its young, even recognized individual members of its species. Some speculate that, had the mass extinction not occurred, Trudon or its relatives could have evolved into something truly unique, something eerily familiar. A reptilian primate, they joke. You're not laughing, because this creature watches you with the unnerving calm of something trying to understand you in return, and then, just as gently, it vanishes into the undergrowth. You move on through the morning haze, stepping onto a high ridge overlooking a wide estuary where the tide creeps lazily inland. Salt mixes with wet earth. Beyond the horizon, pterosaurs circle and dive. You spot a pteranodon, its wings spanning over 20 feet, perched on a stone outcrop. It stares toward the sea as though it, too, is listening for something. A storm, maybe, or something deeper. From the trees behind you, a Cretaceous calls, a resonant trumpet-like cry that echoes over the water. Its head crest, like a curved helmet, serves as a sound chamber. Perhaps it's calling to its mate, or warning its herd. And you remember earlier whispers? Scientists still argue how complex dinosaur communication was. Some believe crests and resonating chambers allowed for low-frequency calls that could travel miles, deep, mournful notes like foghorns in the dawn. Others say body language played the primary role, much like birds. You hear the answer in your bones. It's not just noise, it's music, a language older than words. As you descend the ridge, movement along the shoreline catches your eye. A group of Quetzalcoatlus, some of the largest flying animals to ever exist, struts across the sand like bizarre, oversized storks. Despite their size, they are light-boned, efficient, almost elegant. Their long beaks poke at crustaceans buried beneath the wet sand. They walk upright, their folded wings functioning as limbs. They are not relics, they are masters of the air, and they will not survive what's coming. You kneel and press your hand into the sand, feeling the earth's slow heartbeat again. This time the rhythm is wrong. The cycles are out of tune. You know this world is vibrant, but you also know it is nearing its final performance. Because across the sky, beyond the clouds and even the upper winds, something is falling. A 6-mile-wide asteroid, silent and swift, slicing through the vacuum of space toward the Yucatan Peninsula. But that hasn't happened yet. Not here. Not now. Instead, the sun rises, and life, unaware of its approaching curtain call, continues. You enter a forest thick with flowering plants, orchids, magnolias, and strange, unfamiliar blossoms that vanish before humanity ever walks upright. The underbrush is alive with scurrying mammals, Didelphodon, resembling an opossum, multituberculates nibbling at seeds, still nocturnal, still small, still patient. They bide their time in the shadows, underfoot and unseen, while above them dinosaurs dominate. A rustle, a flash of yellow feathers. You turn and glimpse a city patty, an oviraptorid with a parrot-like beak and a crest like a rooster. It moves with a grace you didn't expect. Its feathers ripple with colour, and it's nesting. You watch from behind a tree as it settles atop a shallow ring of eggs, wings outstretched to shade them. The image is striking, like a brooding bird, and the resemblance isn't coincidental. Fossils have shown city patty preserved in that same pose, wings covering eggs, head tucked, an echo across millennia frozen in stone. They didn't just abandon their young, they cared. You move on, feet crackling over dry leaves. The day grows warmer. You pass a herd of Parasaurolophus, their backward crests catching the sun, or call, others graze. One appears injured, favouring a selka leg, yet it's not alone. Another lingers nearby, waiting, protective. You sense it again. Connection. Relationships. So often dinosaurs are reduced to teeth and tails, but here now you see the richness of their behaviours, herd dynamics, social bonds, parental care, strategic hunting, flocks and packs, rituals and displays. They are not primitive, they are complex. The late Cretaceous is a golden age, but a fragile one. You climb into the highlands where you find Therizinosaurus again, only now you can study it fully. It stands over 20 feet tall, its long claws absurdly oversized. Its body is feathered, its beak toothless, and its diet? Leaves, most likely. This scythe-handed dinosaur looks like a monster but behaves like a gentle gardener, stripping branches with those terrifying arms. Its lineage remains mysterious. Some think it descended from carnivores turned herbivores. Others believe it was always a peaceful anomaly. As with so many ancient creatures, the full truth remains buried. And maybe that's the point. Not everything is meant to be completely understood. Some mysteries survive for the sake of wonder. As dusk falls again, you walk through a forest glowing with fireflies, their small lights flickering like ancient stars caught in a jar. The air is thick with scent, spice, pollen, distant rain. A Torosaurus calls from the hills, low and resonant. Far in the distance, a T-Rex answers, not in hunger, in recognition. They've shared this land for millions of years, and they will not share it for much longer. The sky has changed. The constellations shimmer wrong. A new light appears, not twinkling, not moving, just growing brighter. You sit at the edge of a pond and watch Hesperornis, a diving, fish-eating bird with teeth, skimming across the surface like a living contradiction, flightless, feathered, aquatic, fierce. And above it, the stars ripple. A single streak appears, far away, burning. You know what it means, but for now, for this last moment, you breathe in the world as it was, the warmth, the colour, the sounds of an earth not yet scarred. You remember Trudon's gaze, the nest of the oviraptor, the pterosaurs like kites in a painted sky. This is a world of motion, of music, of life. Tomorrow it ends, but tonight the dinosaurs still rule. It begins with a light, faint at first, just a strange glow on the southern horizon, like lightning held too long, too still. Birds stir from the trees, uneasy. Insects pause in their flight. Even the wind seems to hesitate. The jungle holds its breath. You are still beneath the canopy, surrounded by a world that does not yet understand what is coming. A triceratops pushes through the ferns a few paces ahead of you, snorting softly. It grazes on flowering shrubs, unaware that its era teeters on the edge. Above you the sky is still dark velvet, but something pulses within it. You glance up, and the light is brighter now, not flickering, not dancing like fire or aurora. It is fixed, blazing, and wrong. The trees glow with its reflection. The very air feels charged. You know the shape of disaster, and you are walking through the moments just before it strikes. Still, life continues. You follow a herd of Edmontosaurus as they move down to a watering hole. There are perhaps 50 of them, adults with massive beaked heads, youngsters trotting to keep up, tails swaying in a hypnotic rhythm. Their movements are calm, habitual. One stops to vocalize, a strange bell-like honk that echoes over the water. You feel the sound in your ribs. They drink, they chatter, they flick mud with their tails. You imagine how many millions of times this scene has played out, unbroken by time. To them, this is eternity. The planet has been theirs for so long they cannot fathom an end. And that's the tragedy. The meteor is still far above Earth, racing silently through space. You walk beside the herd, watching the sky flicker with that unnatural glow. Some of the dinosaurs begin to look up now, not in fear, just in curiosity. The mammals emerge from their burrows too. Mesodma, Didelphodon, tiny nocturnal survivors blinking in confusion. They gather under logs and roots, sniffing the air. Even the ground begins to vibrate, though the impact hasn't happened yet. The Earth seems to know, and you do too. So you climb. You ascend a hill through underbrush pulsing with insect life, your breath shallow. The light above grows, brilliant now, as if a second sun were rising hours too early. Shadows stretch and distort. You reach the summit and turn toward the horizon. The sky tears open. It is as though a piece of the cosmos falls into the ocean, screaming light and fire. And then silence. A heartbeat. 2. Then comes the sound, not a thunderclap, not a boom, but a shattering, a crack across the fabric of the sky that shakes the marrow in your bones. The trees tremble, birds fall from branches mid-flight. A wave of wind and heat follows, even from this distance enough to flatten nearby vegetation. The dinosaurs panic. You hear them, hundreds of them, strumming, crying out in fear and confusion. The Edmontosaurus scatter. The Triceratops bolts, head low, horn swinging. Somewhere deep in the forest, a T-Rex roars, not at prey, but in chaos. The structure of their world has just cracked. The impact site, thousands of miles away on what will one day be the Yucatan Peninsula, is obliterated in an instant. The Chicxulub asteroid, 6 miles wide, slams into Earth with the force of more than 1 billion Hiroshima bombs. The ocean vaporizes. The atmosphere ignites. Shockwaves ripple across the globe faster than sound. And you are here, watching the aftershocks begin to roll in. Ash begins to fall, not snow-like, not soft. It is hot, sharp, stinging. You shield your face. Around you the sky begins to darken again. But not from night. From soot. Smoke, debris hurled into the atmosphere begins to blot out the sun itself. You stumble down the hill as the forest begins to burn. Fires rage in all directions, sparked by falling embers and radiant heat. A group of ankylosaurs charges past you, tails dragging, armor clanking. Their eyes are wide, wild. You press against a tree, coughing. The air is thick with dust, and through the haze you see something heartbreaking. A lone Maiasaura stands over her nest, wings outstretched. But the eggs are still. The mother does not leave them. You keep moving. For hours, it seems, you wander through a planet unraveling. Floods, fires, winds, storms without water. Herds break apart, species scatter, ecosystems disintegrate. Many dinosaurs will die today, not from the direct blast, but from everything that follows. The hours become days. The Earth enters a nuclear winter. The skies remain black for months. Photosynthesis halts, plants die, herbivores starve, and then carnivores follow. You walk through a landscape muted and grey. Once vibrant forests are now skeletal, Lakes are still, choked with ash. Carcasses rot in silence. You pass the bones of a Quetzalcoatlus, its wings half-folded, body crumpled like a fallen kite. Farther on, the corpse of a T-Rex collapsed beside a stream that has long since dried. Its mouth is open. You think it was calling for something. There are no more calls, but there is movement. Small mammals, scavengers, survivors. In a crevice between boulders, you find a multituberculate chewing on a seed. Emaciated, yes, but alive. You follow it into a warren where others cluster. Eyes shining in the dark, bodies curled against each other for warmth. Their heartbeat is weak, but it is still there. It is not loud, not triumphant, just persistent. Outside, the earth slowly resets. Over the next years, then centuries, then millennia, the fires go out. The skies clear. The dust settles into layers. The warmth returns, though not evenly. Evolution resumes its quiet work. But for the dinosaurs, the non-avian ones, it is over. They ruled for more than 160 million years. They survived mass extinctions, shifting continents, and 1,000 evolutionary battles. They changed shape, colour, diet, behaviour. They grew feathers, built nests, sang songs across the plains. But they could not survive this, at least not all of them. You look up. A small bird flits from one branch to another. Bright-eyed, sharp-beaked, light enough to fly. Hollow bones, warm blood, covered in feathers, its lineage unbroken. It sings softly, and in that song you hear the echo of the Troodon, of the Velociraptor, of the Oviraptor guarding her eggs. The line did not vanish. It became something new. Birds are the living memory of the dinosaurs. They are the thread that never snapped. You lie down in a quiet clearing. Above you, a pale sky stretches across a scarred but healing earth. Around you, mammals begin to fill the silence the dinosaurs left behind. New creatures will come, primates, elephants, whales, humans, but this chapter is closed. And it ended not in weakness, but in cataclysm. The dinosaurs did not fade. They were erased. And yet, even now, you can feel them. In the soil, in the sky, in the bones of birdsong, in your dreams. Their story has ended. Yours is just beginning. You wake under a canopy of silence. The fires are gone now. The winds have calmed. The sky, though still dust-choked, is no longer black, but a sickly grey, like a world painted over in ash. Nothing stirs. No calls echo. No footfalls shake the ground. You are alone. Or almost alone. You step carefully across the brittle earth, now cracked and bone-dry. The lush Cretaceous plains have become a graveyard. Charred trunks of once towering trees stretch into the dim light like the ribcage of a broken beast. The scents that once filled this world, resin, damp soil, flowering plants, have been replaced by the bitter tang of soot and loss. You pass a field where once a herd of Cretaceous roamed. Their tracks are still visible, pressed into mud now hardened into stone. You follow them, feeling the rhythm of their migration, the long strides of adults, the quicker, nervous steps of juveniles. But they go nowhere, just into absence. The extinction wasn't a single day. It was an unravelling. In the first days and weeks, the darkness from the asteroid's debris wrapped the planet in a toxic blanket. Temperatures plummeted. Sunlight failed to reach the surface. Plants withered. The herbivores grew weak, unable to find food. The carnivores followed, slower, starving as their prey dwindled. You see their bones now. A lone Ankylosaurus lies partially buried in a dry stream bed. Its armour is intact, but its body collapsed inward. Its defences no match for an enemy like time. A nest of Pachycephalosaurus eggs lies untouched beside a scorched bush, the embryos never given the chance to break free. You sit beside a fallen Triceratops, its skull half buried, frill cracked by the weight of falling debris. It was once a titan. Now it is dust. But not everything died. Not all at once, some tried to adapt. You follow the trail of a solitary ornithomimus, its long limbs suggesting speed, its feathered body likely built for bursts of movement and flexibility. It scavenged, it ran, it avoided the flames, the floods, the cold, but in a world without food, without sun, without rhythm, what could survival mean? Scientists still argue how long the mass extinction truly lasted. Was it weeks of global darkness? Months? Did some species linger for years in isolated pockets before the silence took them too? You suspect the answer lies in the bones, and the bones are everywhere. You cross a once coastal region, now a lifeless expanse of sediment and fossilizing sorrow. Dead fish litter the shores, pieces of ammonites and mollusks that vanished entirely. Coral reefs bleached and collapsed. The ocean surface itself changed chemistry, becoming acidic from the carbon released in the impact's wake. Marine reptiles, the once dominant mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, were among the first to vanish. You remember their strength. You watched Mosasaurus tear through the waves like a sea-bound dragon. And now, nothing. You find the remnants of a pterosaur colony, nesting cliffs blackened and cracked by heat. Pteranodon and Nyctosaurus gone, their delicate bones reduced to faint impressions in the rock, like the fading memory of flight. And yet, a song. High above, thin and wavering, something chirps. You turn toward it. A bird. Tiny, bright-eyed, feathers ruffled but intact, flits between the branches of a scorched but living tree. You stare at it in disbelief. It cocks its head and sings again, short, sharp notes, almost defiant, and you understand that the avian dinosaurs, what we call birds, survived. Why them? Perhaps it was size. Many were small, able to take shelter. Maybe it was their metabolism or their ability to fly vast distances to find food. Some scientists suggest that their beaks, lacking teeth, were better suited for the changing diets post-impact. Others point to nesting behaviours, social structures, even dumb luck. But whatever the reason, they endured, and that changes everything. You walk through a region spared the worst fires, lowlands shielded by mountains. Here, there is growth, however fragile. Ferns push up through ash, shoots of early grass wave in the breeze, and among them mammals. You see them now more than before, not just furtive shadows under roots, but active, multiplying, emboldened. Rodent-like creatures dart between burrows. Insectivores dig in soft soil. Some resemble squirrels, others small marsupials, and one, with long limbs and curious eyes, watches you before vanishing into the brush. The age of dinosaurs has ended. The age of mammals has begun. You pass a stream, a thin trickle but clean, and beside it a small group of scavengers feeds on something half-buried. Not bones this time, a carcass of one of their own. They eat because they must. There is no mourning, but there is method. The intelligence in their movements is unmistakable. You wonder how many of these early mammals carry within them the seeds of something greater. Tools, language, thought. You look at their paws, their eyes, the tilt of their heads, and think of what's to come, lemurs, monkeys, apes, you. But it's still early. They are survivors now, not rulers, not yet. You find shelter in a cave at the base of a crumbled cliff, where the walls are streaked with mineral colours, iron red, calcium white, charcoal black. As night falls, the temperature drops again. There is no fire here, only stillness. Outside, the moon rises behind the ash clouds, casting long, pale beams over the broken land. And you think of them, the ones who came before. You think of Troodon's calculating eyes, of Maiasaura's gentle nest, of Stegosaurus with its nervous gait, of T-Rex, fierce and quiet beneath the stars. You think of the Brontosaurus breathing like a mountain, of the Oviraptor with its wings outstretched over unborn dreams. You did not know you would mourn them, but you do, not as monsters, not as fossils, as beings. The earth will move on, new life will rise, forests will regrow, oceans will refill. In time, the wounds will fade. The KPG extinction will be another scar in Earth's ancient body. A chapter, nothing more. But tonight you hold their memory, You walk the earth that remembers them, and for a while longer you dream of giants. Dawn breaks slowly, so slowly you wonder if it ever will. The ash in the upper atmosphere still veils the sky, letting only a sickly grey light seep through. Yet in that murkiness you see movement. Life continues its patient reclamation. You step out of your cave, the ground still cold beneath your feet. The silence that once felt funereal now feels expectant, like the breath before a new note in a symphony. The world has not ended, it has simply turned a page. Ahead of you, a lone bird, a descendant of the avian dinosaurs, hops along a rock, fluffing its feathers against the chill. Its eyes are bright, its movements confident. It lets out a call, crisp and chirping, not unlike modern thrushes. That sound cuts through the fog like a promise. Around you, the world is rebuilding. You follow the trickle of a stream that runs through a recovering valley. On its banks, the first true survivors have staked their claim. Small ferns curl from beneath soot-blackened soil. Mosses spread in mats of green. Lichens cling to stones, breaking down rock, building the base of a new ecosystem. You see movement beneath a fallen log. Mammals, a whole family, perhaps Ptilodus, scampering between roots, their fur dusted with ash but eyes lively. One stands on its hind legs and sniffs the air, whiskers twitching. It's curious about you but not afraid. There is no more thunder of sauropod feet, no more shadow of wingspan titans overhead. But the earth is not empty. It is merely quieter now, like a great cathedral after the choir is finished. The echoes remain. You press forward through the undergrowth, stepping into a thicket that would have been trampled flat just months before. Now it grows unchecked. Vines reach toward faint light. Grasses, true grasses, have begun to sprout. They are new to this world, barely evolved, but hungry for space. The age of dinosaurs has ended, and something else is beginning to take root. It strikes you then how little grandeur there is in survival. The world did not restart with explosions or divine trumpets. It simply persisted. One seed, one scavenger, one ember of warmth in a burrow. No grand speeches, just the quiet, stubborn act of being alive. And yet, what a miracle that is. You sit beside the stream watching it carve a path through the silt. It meanders like time itself. You let your fingers trail in the cold water, imagining all the species that will one day drink from it. Horses, lions, people. For now, though, it is a lifeline for frogs and beetles. A buzzing sound draws your attention to a low bush covered in tiny white blossoms. Insects swarm it, wasps, flies, beetles, and something that catches the light like amber wings. A bee. Its kind will shape the future far more than tooth or claw. You move again into what was once forest. Tree stumps dot the earth like gravestones, their rings singed. But new growth is pushing from their bases. Sprouts, saplings, the forest is trying. You look up and see a break in the clouds. Sunlight spears through, golden and warm. You feel it on your face like a blessing. You close your eyes and breathe. And that's when you hear it. Footsteps, not booming, not thunderous, just footsteps, deliberate, four-legged, large, and you open your eyes. A shape emerges from the trees, a shadow at first, then more defined. You freeze, breath caught between memory and awe. It's a dinosaur. Somehow, impossibly, you're looking at a Struthiomimus, lean, feathered, bird-like. It steps cautiously, nostrils flaring, scanning the area with quick head movements. You blink in disbelief. Could one have survived? You crouch low, watching as it picks at the bushes, tugging leaves into its beak. It's thin, ribs visible, but not wounded. Its feathers are dirty, but intact. A lone remnant, perhaps stranded in some isolated ecosystem the impact spared. Scientists argue whether any non-avian dinosaurs lingered in far corners of the world for a few centuries after the impact. The evidence is unclear. Bone fragments found in younger sediment may be redeposited, they say. But then again, Earth is big and extinction is not always instant. You dare not move. The Struthiomimus glances in your direction, head tilting, 1 foot frozen mid-step. Then it turns and bounds away with a fluid grace, disappearing into the tall grass like a ghost of a vanished age. You remain still for a long time, hand on your chest. Then you rise. You climb a ridge where the air feels clearer, and the sun, yes, the sun, glows with new strength. From here you see the sweep of the land, wide river valleys, ash-grey hills, fresh green in the distance, and life crawling back into the light, birds in the branches, mammals in the underbrush, insects coating the bark. Even the fungi, bold and wild, weaving mycelium under the surface, rebuilding the soil, and high above, a lone hawk-like bird soaring on a draft. A descendant, a survivor. You realise as you watch it glide across the sky that extinction is not just about endings, it is about handoffs. The dinosaurs did not fail. They ran their race with brilliance and fury and wonder. And when the end came, they passed the torch, not willingly, not with ceremony, but with inevitability. To the mammals, to the birds, to the future. To you. You walk the ridgeline thinking of that long timeline, the one you've traced from the Permian deserts through Triassic swamps, through Jurassic thunder, through Cretaceous bloom and fire. You've seen giants rise, you've seen them fall, but in their fall they fertilized the world. You think of Trudon still, of the intelligence in its eyes, and you wonder if its spark now lives in yours, in your hands, in your voice, in your dreams. The earth does not mourn, it resets, it begins again. You descend from the ridge, heading into the next era, into the Paleogene, though the term means nothing here yet. To the mammals, it is simply day one. And somewhere in the trees behind you a bird sings again. The same note over and over, like a memory refusing to fade. You descend into a valley painted in subtle greens and ash-soft browns. A basin sculpted by time and reborn in silence. The world is quiet now, but not empty. Life has found its breath again, shallow though it may be. The air is damp, the soil is warm, the forest here is young, but determined. You walk between slender trunks of early hardwoods, their leaves modest but growing bolder with each season. Beneath your feet the undergrowth twitches with unseen movement. Roots stretch through the loosened ground, and below that fungi, millions of threads weaving life back into the earth. This is no longer the age of dinosaurs, it is the dawn of something else. You pause near a stream watching as a pair of small mammals drink cautiously from the edge. Their fur is thick, speckled with dust. One twitches its nose, the other perks its ears. You recognise them, Eoconodon likely. Roughly the size of a possum, but built like a badger. Their jaws are powerful, teeth sharp. Scavengers? Probably. Omnivores? Certainly. They are not elegant, but they are ready. This is how it begins, not with glory, but with grit. The earth has changed, both in body and in spirit. Climate patterns are erratic. The dust in the atmosphere lingers, filtering sunlight. Seasons are unreliable. Some regions are cold when they should be warm. Others flood unexpectedly. And yet, amid this turmoil, mammals multiply. At first, they are small, humble, rodent-like, nocturnal, but their diversity is explosive. Within a few million years, you begin to see changes. Protungulatum, with padded feet and simple teeth, an early relative of hoofed mammals. Purgatorius, leaping between branches, grasping at fruit with nimble paws, an ancestor to primates. It is there, perhaps, that your own story first glints into the fossil record. You walk beside a forest clearing where low-lying shrubs bear tiny fruits. The air buzzes with life, beetles, bees, small lizards. You spot a furry creature balancing on its hind limbs to reach a cluster of berries. Its movements are cautious but clever, not frantic like prey, measured, almost experimental. You sit quietly watching it nibble, it chews, pauses, selects another. This is not random, this is choice. Scientists still debate when true intelligence began to stir in mammals. Tool use may not come for millions of years, but here, now, something is happening. Neural complexity, pattern recognition, memory, a sense of play. It begins with food. You leave the clearing behind and follow a low ridge, where the land dips toward what was once a coastal swamp. Now, it is a lake surrounded by grasses, real grasses, widespread for the first time. And in those grasses you see movement. Herds, not dinosaurs, but mammals, again, larger now. Phenacodus, 3 feet tall at the shoulder, built like a small horse with hooved toes and a long tail. They graze in loose clusters, lifting their heads periodically to sniff the wind. Behind them, predators stalk, Arctocyan, possibly, with dog-like bodies and long, sharp canines. It's hard to tell who belongs to which lineage anymore. Everything is still morphing, still choosing who to be. You watch a chase unfold, clumsy but desperate. The predator lunges, the herd scatters, dust kicks up. One small ungulate falls, squeals, and is caught. The kill is fast, efficient. There is no cruelty here, just hunger. The earth still demands its cost, but compared to the roaring ambushes of T-Rex, this feels quieter, more intimate. Mammals are close to the ground. They feel the world differently. They don't just see it. They touch it, smell it, listen for its moods. They live in time, not above it. You pass through the tall grass, stepping where they ran. The hoof prints are soft, the blood already drying. In a tree nearby, small primates chitter and leap. Social, agile, curious. Their hands grasp branches like questions waiting to be answered. And you know those questions will echo through millennia, through stone, through skulls, and eventually to you. You find shelter for the night beneath an overhanging rock face where ancient ferns still cling to damp soil. As darkness falls, the forest comes alive, not with the booming presence of giants, but with whispers, owl-like calls or the rustle of fur, the sharp snap of a twig beneath a paw. You lie back and watch the moon rise. The stars have not changed, but the earth beneath them has. And somewhere in the distance something hoots. A true bird, yes, but behind the voice you hear it again, the faint echo of the old ones. The dinosaurs did not vanish in a puff of smoke. They transformed. They shattered. They split into fragments. Some became fossils. Some became birds. Perhaps became stories, waiting to be told. You awaken with the dawn, startled by the cold wetness of dew on your skin. Around you the world feels awake, not fully recovered, not yet lush, but reaching. A breeze carries pollen across the landscape. You see insects swarming trees in coordinated dances. You hear new bird calls, and then something strange. In the distance, a trembling in the earth. At first, you fear it is another impact, but it is rhythmic, measured. A pulse. You climb a small slope and freeze. Before you, across a floodplain, moves a creature as tall as a giraffe, an Embolitherium, its head bearing a bizarre bony crest like a satellite dish. It's not a dinosaur, not even close, but its silhouette, its gait, there's something ancestral about it. It's a mammal, massive and slow, lumbering through the grass like it owns the world. Because now it does. And following behind it, in groups of 2s and 3s, come others, odd-toed ungulates, early elephants, huge herbivores that look like misfit monsters. This is the Paleocene giving way to the Eocene. This is the rise of mammalian megafauna. And it is only just beginning. You sit and watch the herd pass, stunned by the size, the audacity of their forms. Horns, trunks, hooves, fur, each one more improbable than the last. You want to cheer, not because they are replacements for dinosaurs, but because they are answers to the same old questions. How do you eat? How do you live? How do you raise your young, protect your own, find warmth, find water, endure? Life never stops asking, and nature never stops answering. The earth is not sacred because it is unchanging. It is sacred because it is resilient. You rise and follow the sound of their passing, the drumbeat of feet on earth, and you know this path goes somewhere, toward creatures yet undreamed of, toward ice ages and migrations, toward cave fires and painted walls, toward language, and toward you, but that is still far off. For now the earth breathes again, and the song of life plays on. You walk through a dawn mist hanging low over a forest of giants. Not dinosaurs, those have passed into memory, but the trees themselves. Towering redwoods and ancient angiosperms stretch toward a sky still healing. The sun finally shines with full force now, filtered through a blue that has returned after decades of grey. It glitters on dew-wet leaves and pools in the canopy above like a golden ceiling. Beneath your feet the earth is rich again. Decay has fed it. Ash has nourished it. The bones of giants, those long-lost reptiles, have become the soil's inheritance, and from it the future rises. You follow a herd of shaggy, thick-bodied mammals through a forest clearing. Uintatherium, perhaps. Their horns short, their heads wide, tusks curved forward like awkward promises of evolution yet to come. They grunt softly, low and rhythmic as they browse among the branches. Some nudge their young forward. The calves stick close, eyes bright with curiosity and an ancient inherited fear. Predators still hunt these lands. You don't see them yet, but you feel their presence, silent, watching. Perhaps Andrewsarchus lingers nearby, that hyena-faced, wolf-bodied predator with jaws like living traps. Or maybe it's a more ancestral hunter. Teeth remain essential in every era, and still this is balance. The mammals are growing, and not just in size, but in mind. As you walk, you come across a stream where a group of early primates is gathered in the branches above. Their movements are playful, darting between vines and bark, their hands delicate and precise. You squint to make out the form. A small creature, no bigger than a squirrel, with wide eyes and a prehensile tail. Tail hardina, maybe, or one of its cousins. They do not run when they see you. Instead, one tilts its head, stares. You stare back. There's a quiet spark between you, curiosity mirrored. It sniffs the air, then turns and bounds away, vanishing into the trees. The others follow, chattering softly. You realize this is something new. The dinosaurs were magnificent, but most looked through the world. These creatures look into it. They study, remember, mimic. You've seen intelligence before. Trudon's long gaze haunts you still, but this is a different kind. A mind not just for survival, but for reflection. Some scientists argue that primates' large brains evolved because they lived in trees, navigating complex paths, communicating in social groups, adapting quickly. Others think it was a response to changing climates, to unstable ecosystems. Whatever the reason, the consequences are profound. These are the first sparks of self-awareness, the roots of memory, the shadow of story, and the embryo of imagination. You follow the stream through a gorge, where water trickles over rocks in delicate song. Ferns lean over the banks, their fronds dipping gently. Tiny frogs, some bright, others camouflaged, leap between the leaves. A dragonfly hovers near your face, its wings humming like stringed instruments tuned to ancient keys. You stop, you listen, and there it is again, life's rhythm. Fainter now, less thunderous than in the days of the dinosaurs, but no less beautiful. Insects buzzing, water falling, primates calling, wind rustling high branches, a world full of voices. You reach a hilltop and see it at last. The early Eocene spread out before you, rolling plains, swamps, forests stitched with rivers, mountains in the distance capped in mist, and across the land mammals, hundreds of kinds growing in shape and ambition. Hoofed creatures gallop between hills, burrowers vanish into the soil, fruit-eaters scale trunks. You see ancient bats flutter overhead, one of the newest arrivals in this still young age. Their wings are thin, leathery, whisper quiet. The sky belongs to them now. The birds share it, of course, descendants of raptors and oviraptors and dromaeosaurs. They build nests, raise chicks, swoop after insects in elegant arcs. You smile at a flash of colour. A red throat, green feathers, darting as movement. A hummingbird. So small, so powerful. You wonder what would happen if T-Rex could see this. Would it rage at its replacement, or marvel at what came next? You sit beneath a flowering tree, its blossoms pale pink and fragrant, and you remember the first flowers you saw, back in the Cretaceous, blooming at the feet of towering herbivores. The bees are still here, drinking from the petals. The continuity is comforting, but it also reminds you, nothing ever truly ends. It changes. You close your eyes and let memory wash over you. The crash of asteroid impact, the fleeing herds, the fire and ashen silence, and then the heartbeat returning. One bird, one root, one breath, you open your eyes again. A pair of mammals emerges from the trees ahead, a mother and child, not deer, not horses, something older, possibly Hyracotherium, a proto-horse the size of a dog, with toes instead of hooves and eyes wide with alertness. The young one lags behind, sniffing a rock, then sprints to catch up. The mother pauses, nudges it, waits. Parental care. Connection. That thread never broke. You rise and follow them through the trees, watching as they disappear into a field of tall grass. Beyond them, thunderheads gather over the horizon. Storm clouds, thick and slow-moving. Lightning flickers once, then again. The future will not be easy. This age, like every age, will see trials, climate shifts, extinctions, ice, heat, struggle. War intelligence, when it comes, will bring complexity, memory, culture, tools, but also fire, also fear, also forgetfulness. But for now, the world is waking. You find a rock by a bend in the river and sit, letting your feet dangle in the current. Fish dart beneath the surface, some small and sleek, others armoured and sluggish. They are nothing like the marine reptiles of old, but they hold their own kind of mystery. A turtle slides onto the bank and rests beside you. It's the same kind of creature you saw so long ago, back when the Triassic began. It hasn't changed much. It didn't need to. Some life adapts, some endures. The turtle blinks once, then disappears into the water. And you wonder, how far must you walk now? You have travelled from primordial swamps to dinosaur empires to extinction's edge and into rebirth. Where else is there to go? Then far off in the dusk you see something. Flickering, orange, and not a flower, not lightning, fire, not a wildfire, a campfire, contained, tended. You can almost hear the crackle. Someone is sitting beside it, someone who remembers, not directly, but in bones, in blood, in day. A descendant, a storyteller, a creature with a mind not just to survive, but to understand. You step toward the fire, slowly, quietly, and the night once again listens. The fire flickers in the distance, a small flame cradled by the vastness of a cooling planet. You descend the slope toward it, unsure of what you'll find, uncertain whether it's a trick of light or something real. Until now, you have moved among creatures whose minds are shaped by hunger and instinct, whose eyes watch the world but rarely reflect upon it. But this is different. A fire does not build itself. Someone made this. You move quietly through the tall grass, each blade wet with evening dew, each step echoing through a past that no longer exists. The stars are blooming overhead, bright, sharp points scattered across a velvet sky. The moon rises full and pale, casting long shadows over the land. And then you see them, figures, upright, small, covered in hair. They sit in a circle around the flame. Their faces are turned inward, toward one another. Their eyes shimmer with something deeper than survival. You stop behind a tree and simply watch. They are early hominids, likely Australopithecus, barely taller than your shoulder, long arms, powerful jaws. But in those faces, there's something familiar, something almost unsettling. You recognize it because it is yours. They gesture softly as they eat, not just out of habit, but as if to explain. One grunts in a rhythmic pattern, another mimics a bird call. You watch a child lean toward the fire and place a stick in it, pulling it out quickly and waving it through the air, laughing. A parent scolds gently, pulling them back. You exhale slowly. This is no longer just instinct. This is culture. Primitive, yes, but not empty. Scientists still argue when true language began, some say with Homo habilis, others say it came much later. But communication, the shaping of ideas into shared meaning, has roots deeper than any fossil. And here, in the glow of a fire, those roots are stirring. You sit quietly, a respectful distance away, and let the firelight carry you. Above them, the branches hold birds, descendants of dinosaurs. Their feathers catch the orange glow, their eyes reflecting the same fire that once fell from the sky during the Chicxulub event. That cataclysm that nearly ended everything has, through unimaginable patience, led here, to fire, to thought, to story. The hominids rise early, before the sun crests the hills. You follow them at a distance as they move through the forest, gathering fruit, cracking nuts with stones, inspecting insects under bark. One spots you and pauses, head tilted. You don't run, you don't speak, you just watch. It stares for a moment longer, uncertain, not afraid. Then it huffs through its nostrils and trots to catch up with the others. You feel honoured somehow, a brief silent acknowledgement across eons. The land they traverse is no longer raw and recovering. It breathes again. Trees tower overhead, not as old as those in the time of Apatosaurus, but just as ambitious. Vines twist around trunks, flowers bloom in an ever-growing mosaic of colour. And the mammals, now dominant, have taken every niche. In the treetops, lemurs and monkeys leaping from branch to branch, their tails curled in mid-air arcs. On the forest floor, elephants, descendants of tiny Eocene creatures now grown massive. You watch them pass, deliberate and solemn, their trunks gently exploring the world. Even the oceans have changed. You follow the trail of the hominids until it reaches a cliff overlooking the sea. The water stretches to infinity, silver under morning light. Waves lap gently at the shore below, and in those waves life brews anew. Whales breach in the distance, air-breathing titans born from land mammals who return to the sea. Dolphins leap nearby, playing with kelp. Seals bark from the rocks, from ocean to ocean again. Evolution is never linear. It's a river with many branches. A flock of flamingos lifts from the shallows, pink wings flashing. You sit on the cliff and marvel at how far the world has come. You remember the first time you saw dinosaurs swim, Spinosaurus slicing through ancient rivers, the crest of its sail trailing like a shark's fin. That power is here too, but softer now, more elegant, more complex. You descend the cliff, your feet slipping on loose stones, until you reach the beach. The sand is warm. The shells scattered along the shoreline are strange, spiraled, translucent, delicate. One still wriggles with life. You pick it up, examine the creature inside, and gently place it back where the tide can reclaim it. Farther down the beach, the hominids have stopped. One is hunched over something. Another points, shrieking in a high-pitched, excited trill. You approach slowly. They're drawing. On the flat surface of a rock, smoothed by wind and salt, they press fingers dipped in crushed berry pulp. They create patterns, circles, handprints, animal shapes. One scrawls a crude spiral, another traces a fish. This is more than play, and this is memory. You feel your chest tighten. This is the seed of everything: art, identity, myth. They do not have words yet, not as you know them, but they are telling. And the story they tell, whether they know it or not, began with scales and claws and thunder. It began with Tyrannosaurus, with Diplodocus, with the sharp-eyed Troodon, with the world bursting into flame and reassembling itself from soot. And now, through the charcoal strokes of early hands, that story moves forward. You stand among them as they work. They don't stop you. They don't flee. One even offers you a piece of red clay, pressing it into your hand with wide, curious eyes. You nod in gratitude and draw beside them. Not a dinosaur, not a mammal, a line, a wave, a symbol. They squeal with delight, and the fire crackles behind you. Night falls again and the stars return. This time you lie beside the group, close enough to feel their warmth, distant enough to be apart. They sleep curled in each other's arms, breath syncing with the rhythm of the waves. Above you, the moon watches. It has seen everything, and as you close your eyes, you hear a soft whistle in the trees. A night bird sings. Somewhere inland, an elephant trumpets. In the soil beneath you, insects churn, worms burrow. Roots stretch. Life is moving, always. You drift into sleep with the red clay still on your fingers and a spiral etched into your heart. Tomorrow the fire will burn again, and with it, a new chapter will begin. The fire is gone by morning, reduced to a smudge of charcoal in the sand. Yet its warmth lingers, on the stones, in the footprints pressed into the earth, in the soot-streaked memory of hands. The hominids have moved on, slipping into the forest like dreams fading at dawn. You rise and follow. The forest is thicker now, tangled and restless. Vines droop from towering boughs. Branches creak in the breeze. The air is warm, humid, alive with insect buzz and bird chatter. Everything here seems to be searching, stretching, becoming. And so are you! You move with care, listening, not just for threats, but for stories. The rustle of a fruit dropped from a tree, the sudden shriek of a monkey overhead, the rhythmic tap of a woodpecker carving into bark. Life is rewriting itself in real time, each sound a syllable in the growing poem of evolution. Up ahead you see them again, different hominids this time. Taller, leaner, still stooped but more upright. Homo habilis likely. The handyman. One of the earliest toolmakers. They're gathered around a fallen log, chattering in staccato bursts. One holds a rock in each hand, smashes them together with practiced movements. Tiny flakes splinter off. He pauses, inspects the edge, then sharpens again. This is something new. Not just survival, intentionality. The flakes will become cutting tools used to strip bark, butcher meat, carve wood. These creatures aren't simply part of the world anymore. They are beginning to shape it, to mould it. One scrape at a time, you kneel nearby, careful not to interrupt. A juvenile, no older than 5, scuttles toward you. Her eyes are wide. She extends a stick, crudely sharpened at the tip, and presses it into your hand. You take it gently. It's not a weapon, it's an invitation. They've noticed you now. The others pause, studying your presence with a kind of calm alertness. Not fear, not curiosity, something in between. You nod once, quietly, respectfully. One of them nods back. And just like that, you are part of the circle. A female picks up a fruit and presses it into a hollow rock, crushing it with another. The juice runs down her fingers. A child scoops some up and licks it. The group giggles. Another begins stacking stones into a tiny tower. The child knocks it over with glee. Play, pattern, precision, all signs of something stirring deeper than instinct. Some researchers believe Homo habilis may have understood basic cause and effect. If I strike this, it sharpens. If I pile these, they fall. Others believe they were simply imitating what worked. But either way, imitation is a kind of knowledge. You watch a young male trace a line in the dirt with a stick. He follows it with his eyes, then draws another. He doesn't know what he's doing, but he wants to. That's the difference. That's what changes the world. Later that day, you follow the group to a watering hole where the earth is cracked and pocked with tracks. Antelope herds have passed here. So have predators, large cats perhaps. You feel their presence in the shadows. Meganterion maybe, or a saber-toothed cousin, watching from the undergrowth, waiting for one mistake. But the hominids don't flee. They form a semicircle, stone tools in hand, sticks sharpened like spears. Their bodies are leaner now, muscles hard, limbs long. They move with confidence. They are no longer just prey. You watch as 2 of them move in sync toward a sleeping carcass, a fallen antelope. One keeps watch. The other slices flesh from bone, not with grace but with focus. They finish quickly and return to the group. A few begin to chew. The others look to the tree line, alert, always alert. You look too. And there, moving low, quiet, predatory, a saber-tooth. its eyes are fire-lit in the undergrowth. The hominids notice, they hiss, raise their tools, not to charge and not to attack, but to warn, to deter. The saber-tooth snarls once, low and guttural, then slips back into the shadows. No bloodshed, just survival, negotiated without teeth. That too is progress. As the sun lowers, they begin to prepare camp. They gather leaves, stack stones into windbreaks. The fire returns, sparked with friction, coaxed with dried grass, nurtured like an infant. You sit at its edge, cross-legged, watching as they pass food, flick away embers and speak in the language of grunts, gestures, glances. You remember the first fires you saw, forests ablaze after the asteroid, flames licking the bones of Triceratops, black smoke billowing toward a starless sky. Fire was destruction then, but here it is warmth, here it is light. A child presses into your side and offers you a leaf cup filled with water. You take it, drink. The gesture is clumsy but meaningful. They trust you, and you trust them. The stars come out, and with them a kind of quiet reverence falls over the group. One of the elders hums, not a tune exactly, but a rhythmic sound rising and falling. Others join. Heads nod, bodies sway. It is not quite music, but it is close. Scientists still debate whether music came before language, or the other way around. But here you see why rhythm might have been first. It unites, it calms, it marks time, it says, "We are together, we are alive, we belong." You lie back in the grass, staring at the night sky, and suddenly you remember. The great migrations of Apatosaurus beneath comet-streaked skies, the lonely call of Quetzalcoatlus above the late Cretaceous clouds, the starlit stillness after the extinction, the eerie hush when all seemed lost. And now this, a circle of creatures, a fire, a rhythm, and you're walking through the beating heart of a memory, through the dream of life shaping itself again. One spark, one tool, one shared glance across the dark, a future is forming, even if they can't see it yet. These hands that crack nuts will one day build cathedrals. These voices will tell legends. These fires will burn in caves, then huts, then cities. You close your eyes and feel the warmth on your face. And you know, though the dinosaurs have fallen, their story lives on, and in birds, in bones, and in this fire, and in what comes next. Morning arrives like a whisper, pale light seeping into the world beneath the trees. The embers from the night's fire still glow faintly, a heartbeat buried in ash. Around you the hominids begin to stir, yawning and stretching, shaking off sleep in the calm quiet of the forest's breath. You rise with them, your joints stiff but your thoughts alive, because something is different today, something subtle but undeniable. Yesterday the tools were simple, stones and sticks, broken and sharpened by accident or crude design. Today one of the males holds a smoother blade, more deliberate in shape. You watch him flake it carefully, turning the rock in his palm with a kind of absorbed concentration that borders on artistry. He tests the edge against bark. It slices easily. It's a hand axe, primitive by modern standards, but revolutionary here. The first real step towards technology. You step back and marvel at it. One simple object. But everything it will unlock lies curled inside it. As the group moves again, you follow their migration along a river. The banks are muddy, lined with reeds and flowering shrubs. You spot frogs, lizards, birds you recognize, descendants of Cretaceous ancestors now indistinguishable from modern forms. You even glimpse a crocodile motionless in the shallows, its eyes barely above the surface. It hasn't changed much. It didn't need to. But around you the world is changing rapidly. The hominids move with confidence now, crossing terrain they once feared. They leap small streams, scale low cliffs, forage together. Their foraging is more targeted than ever before, not random scrounging, but guided by memory. One climbs a tree and returns with berries the others avoid. He eats them anyway, testing for safety. A risk taker, a scientist. Another group, Females, older juveniles, gathers roots and nuts and returns with armfuls, laying them out in the sun to dry. They aren't eating everything at once. They're saving, planning. The mind is shifting. Scientists argue where true planning behavior begins. Some say crows and apes show hints. Others believe it's a uniquely human trait. But here in the sunlight, a female hominid crouches and covers a small pile of food with leaves and stones. Not from predators, from the sun. She doesn't want it to rot. That's more than instinct. That's foresight. You trail behind the group, watching as they track an animal. An antelope or boar, perhaps. The male with the hand axe kneels beside a patch of broken twigs and disturbed mud. He grunts. Others gather. One points to a tuft of fur caught on a bramble. They nod. They change direction. This is not just scavenging anymore. It's tracking. Hunting is no longer just reactionary, it's strategic, coordinated, evidence-based. And in the distance, a cry, sharp and piercing, a signal. You rush to follow. Two males have flanked the prey, pushing it toward a narrow channel in the riverbed. The others approach from behind, brandishing sticks, shouting in low, deliberate bursts. The animal panics, bolts toward the trap, and too late. It falls tangled in the mud. A swift strike and a sharp stone, and it's done. They don't cheer, they don't gloat, but there's a quiet rhythm in their movements as they begin to work. Some skin the animal, others drag pieces back toward a clearing where the group can eat in safety. The youngest watch carefully, learning scently. One picks up a bloodied stick and swings it. Not in anger, in imitation. That too is learning. By midday, the clearing becomes a hive of activity. They share meat. They gesture in patterns that grow more refined. One smacks his lips rhythmically while pointing to the remaining carcass. Another repeats the sound over and over. A name, maybe? A word, you can't be sure, but something ancient stirs inside you. You feel the pressure of speech forming, the architecture of grammar still hidden in the fog of time. Even if they don't yet speak in sentences, they are building meaning, layer by layer. Later, when the sun begins to fall, a juvenile approaches a nearby rock wall. With a piece of charred wood, he scratches a mark into it, a rough curve, 2 vertical slashes. He smiles, then draws it again. Another joins. Soon there are 6 or 7 shapes, all repeating the same figure. They laugh, then mimic an animal walking past, then draw it. Art has entered the world. So has symbol. You watch this act with quiet awe. Not because it's precise, it isn't. The lines are crude, the animal's indistinct. But it's not about quality. It's about intention. These shapes are no longer just marks. They are representations, proof that the mind is evolving. You look around and realize you're no longer witnessing simple creatures living by the minute. You're seeing time begin to matter. You are seeing memory made external, etched into stone and wood and shared space. Night returns slowly. The group gathers again around the fire. One of the elders, wrinkled, scarred but alert, begins a low humming chant. Others join in. The fire crackles, shadows dance on the trees. And then, something remarkable. A younger male rises and begins acting out the day's hunt. He mimics the wounded animal. The charge, the fall. He makes the same sharp cry as before. Others clap. One slaps his thigh. The children laugh. And suddenly you know this is theatre, this is narrative. Before language, before alphabets, before written records, there was this. Movement, memory, meaning. They are telling the story of the hunt. And so storytelling begins. You close your eyes and feel the generations ripple forward from here. These actors will become elders. Their gestures will become words. Their stories will become myths. And those myths will form cultures. You see painted caves in your mind, walls filled with bison and moon symbols and red ochre handprints. You hear flutes carved from bone. You feel the thrum of drums in dark chambers where firelight casts animal spirits against stone. All of it is coming. Because this has already begun. As you lie down beside the glowing fire, you understand something crucial. You have walked with creatures who lived with raw force, with pure instinct, with unmatched scale. But here, among these hairy, awkward beings, you found something deeper. Reflection, memory, imagination. Dinosaurs ruled the earth with might, but these creatures will rule it with meaning. And as the stars spin overhead and the earth turns beneath you, you listen to the soft hum of sleep settling over the camp. A child curls beside your arm. A log shifts in the fire. A night bird sings one clear note above the trees. The story continues. And so do you. Dawn unfurls gently through the treetops, pouring over the sleeping forms of the tribe in warm amber light. The air smells faintly of smoke, earth, and sun-warmed bark. You stir before they do, rising to your feet and stepping quietly among their resting shapes. A child murmurs in their sleep, clutching a stick painted with berry juice, faded but still red. A story from yesterday held close like a talisman. You breathe in the morning and listen. Insects buzz softly. Birds stir above, flitting from branch to branch, their calls layered like verses of a waking hymn. Far off the river murmurs, swollen from last night's rain. And through it all, something quieter still. The pulse of change, slow but unstoppable. These are no longer just hominids, they are becoming human. Today you walk not just through forests or river valleys, but through thresholds. Biological, mental, cultural. Every moment pulses with transition. The group begins to wake, stretching, yawning, murmuring sounds that could almost be words. They pack quickly, bundling leaves, food scraps, stones, and sharpened sticks into hide slings. There's a rhythm to their movement now, an unspoken routine. You realize they are organizing. There's a goal, not survival alone, something more. They are migrating, following herds, chasing the rains, seeking better shelter. You walk beside them as they move out of the forest and into a wide grassland, golden with tall blades that sway like ocean waves. The sun crests higher. The air grows dry. The openness is vast and shimmering. They pause at the top of a hill, and you see it. A distant mountain range, blue-grey with haze, their peaks cradling snow. Between you and them, scattered trees, wandering herds and far-off movement, other groups, other people. Somewhere deep in your chest a bell rings softly. You realize this is how it begins. Tribes encounter tribes, tools are trended, gestures shared, ideas passed like fire from hand to hand, culture spreads. As the group walks, you notice them checking the sun's path across the sky. One elder tracks shadows with a stick, another tests the wind with a handful of ash. These are not just observations, they're measurements, patterns, the earliest science. You pause by a tree and spot something strange. A row of symbols carved into the bark, not letters, not language, but repeated shapes, triangles, loops, circles, markers perhaps, directions for those who follow, or warnings. The forest remembers, so do they. They stop in a grove of tall trees, and you help gather wood for another fire. The coals from the previous one are still smouldering, carried in a hollowed gourd, proof that fire is no longer discovered by chance. It is maintained, tended, passed on. The gourd is sealed with clay. A container. You smile. This too is innovation. One of the females grinds seeds between two flat stones. Another chews fibrous bark and spits it into a small mould, pressing it into shape with deft hands. When she finishes, she lifts it carefully, an early attempt at rope. Every gesture carries intention now. Every act builds a future. As the day stretches long and hot, the tribe rests beneath the trees. The children play with stones and bones, building patterns mimicking the adults. One lines up pebbles by size, another arranges twigs into a spiral. You watch them closely. This is more than mimicry. This is imagination. The ability to create something that does not yet exist. Later, the adults begin working on a shared task. They dig a pit, wide and shallow, then line it with leaves and clay. A few drag in smouldering branches. Smoke curls upward. Meat from yesterday's hunt is lowered in, the pit is sealed. An earth oven, cooking, the smell fills the grove, rich, mouth-watering. And in that moment you realise how revolutionary this is. Cooked food is easier to digest. It unlocks more calories. It fuels bigger brains. Some scientists believe the invention of cooking was the tipping point for human intelligence. Others think it came later. But here the evidence simmers in the soil. Fire feeds the mind. As twilight falls again, the group begins to murmur. Their voices rise and fall in a cadence you now recognise. Narration. The elders speak, the children listen, and you catch snippets of movement in their hands as they act out animals, storms, journeys. This is oral tradition. You realise with awe that they are already building history, a version of the past passed not through bone or fossil but breath and rhythm. The fire crackles. A male stands and points to the sky. You follow his finger. Above you, the stars blossom, dizzyingly bright in the clear air. The Milky Way spills across the heavens like a frozen river. You hear murmurs, soft awe, perhaps belief. One of the older children lies flat on their back, tracing patterns with a stick in the air. Constellations, myths waiting to form. Their minds now stretch not just across space, but across time. They remember the past. They wonder about the sky. They tell stories. And slowly, without knowing, they're asking questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? What lies beyond the hills? These are the seeds of philosophy. You lie back beside them and close your eyes. You remember other skies, burning red as T-Rex battled for territory, streaked with comet tails in the final days of the Cretaceous, choked with ash after the impact. So much has changed, but the stars remain. And tonight, a child reaches for them. Morning brings motion again. The group moves with increasing purpose now. They avoid known danger zones, skirting a gully that once held a leopard. They pass signs of others, recent fires, footprints, broken branches. They walk with a quiet intensity. Their pace is faster. You realise this is not just migration anymore. It's exploration. They are moving outward, seeking what's next. Land, safety, resources, ideas. This is the beginning of a global journey. The great expansion of early humans across continents, out of Africa, into Asia, into Europe, toward mountains and deserts and coasts and islands. They don't know it yet, but their feet are already charting the future, and as they walk they carry more than food or tools. They carry story. You see it in the way they pause at landmarks and gesture, the way they mark trees, the way they leave symbols in stones for those who will follow. They are shaping not just the land, but memory of the land. A collective mind is forming. You crest a hill beside them and see the terrain shift once more. Ahead lies a wide river, silver with light. Beyond it, open savanna. Smoke rises from distant camps. You smell cooked meat, hear laughter. Other tribes, more voices, more stories. You've walked with reptiles that ruled the earth. You've watched extinction tear the world open. You've seen mammals rise, cultures bloom, minds awaken. And now you stand at the edge of humanity, not just as observers of the world, but as participants in it, shapers of it. The tribe begins to descend the hill. Children run ahead, chasing insects. Adults murmur plans. A young female carries a pouch filled with carved stones, tokens maybe, tools, or just memories. Whatever they are, she guards them, because the past matters now, or it has become a possession. You stand on that hilltop watching the fire smoke spiral in the wind. This is not the end, this is only the beginning. The river's voice grows louder as you descend the slope, flowing smooth and wide across the savannah, like a silver thread stitching the land together. The tribe moves with quiet purpose now, their steps steady but cautious. The open space ahead is unfamiliar, new terrain, new risks, new possibilities. And yet they go. You walk alongside them, the dry grass brushing your legs, wind humming in your ears. The children point to dragonflies as big as their hands, shimmering blue and gold in the sunlight. One of the older men carries a bundle of dried roots, wrapped in animal hide, slung over his shoulder like a satchel of secrets. They're not just foraging anymore, they're transporting knowledge. These bundles are food, yes, but they're also memory. Knowing which roots to carry, where to find them again, and how to replant them elsewhere. That's a form of continuity. It's how civilization begins, not with cities, but with decisions like this one. Which seeds are worth saving? Which trails lead to water? Which stories are too precious to forget? At the river's edge they pause. The current is fast, the water is deeper than expected. They murmur among themselves, pointing at rocks, gauging depth, discussing problem-solving. One female circles downstream looking for a crossing. Two males test the depth with sticks. You watch it unfold like a quiet ballet. Thought, testing, adjustment. One slips in. The water reaches his chest, but he manages to cross. He turns, gestures for the others to follow. They do slowly, carrying the youngest above their heads. Tools bundled high in fur slings. The current tugs, but they move together, anchored by instinct, strengthened by intention. When they reach the far bank, they exhale in quiet triumph. No cheers, no celebration, just survival, earned again. On the other side, the world opens wider. Trees give way to tall grass and long shadows. The savannah is rich with life. You see it in flashes. Giraffe-like antelope leaping through brush, birds exploding skyward in spirals of colour, distant elephants casting great shadows against the hills, and predators. You spot one first, a lioness, her golden coat rippling as she stalks the herd from a hilltop. The group doesn't see her, but you sense the hush that falls. Every creature here knows the weight of eyes in the tall grass, but the humans are learning. You notice how the scouts travel ahead now. Two adults always in front, scanning. One carries a stone in each hand, the other holds a sharpened spear. They pause often, listen, signal. They're beginning to map danger, not just react to it. Even the children know the patterns now. They stay in the centre, near the fire carriers, within reach of the strong. One girl, maybe 7, already mimics the scouts. She crouches, watches birds. You can see the way her mind is stretching, testing. This is the inheritance of memory, not in bone, in behaviour. You break away from the group for a moment, stepping up a ridge that overlooks the plain. Below, you see not just your tribe, but others. Smoke rising from 2 other camps far off. Figures moving in the distance, sometimes upright, sometimes crouched. You wonder what stories they tell. Are their words different? Are their gods the same? Do they remember the same animals? The same stars? And you realise something vast and quiet and heavy. This is when difference begins. Different fires, different myths, different dialects. Humanity is fanning out now, carving unique paths through the same earth. Shared origin, divergent future. Back at camp, the fire is lit again. They use dry grass and flint now, faster, cleaner. The children don't just watch, they assist. One brings leaves, another collects kindling. You see the pride in their eyes when the spark catches. The adults don't speak, but they acknowledge. A nod, a touch on the shoulder. Validation. That too is new. In the days of reptiles, there was no need for affirmation. A hatchling either survived or did not. But here, among these beings, guidance matters. Encouragement shapes outcome. Social bonds aren't just for protection, they're for learning. They cook again. The smell rises like memory through the trees. Meat and roots, charred but nourishing. And then, in the firelight, another act of meaning unfolds. One of the older men takes a flat stone and draws something in the ash. A spiral, a 4-legged figure. Then he points to the sky. A murmur runs through the group. The children gather close. You lean in. He is telling the stars, not just pointing, not just naming, he's connecting. This shape, he gestures, then to the stars, is that one. A constellation, a symbol drawn from memory, projected onto the heavens. Scientists still debate when humans first began associating stars with stories. Some suggest our ancestors tracked constellations tens of thousands of years ago. Others argue it began only after agriculture. But here, tonight, it is beginning. The stars are becoming narrative. One child copies the drawing with a stick. Another whispers the pattern to herself. It spreads, not through writing but through mimicry, repetition, desire. The stars have become ours. Later that night they sleep in pairs, curled against logs beneath cloaks of woven grasses and hide. The sky turns slowly. The moon glides westward. An owl cries, and you lie awake, because you can feel it now, how close it is. The border between now and history. The last echoes of the deep past are fading. The roars of T-Rex, the thunder of Brontosaurus, the crackle of asteroid fires. They live on, yes, in bones and genes. But here, in this firelit clearing, their legacy is something else entirely. And it's the story. The tale of what came before, passed from elder to child, not with fossil, but with firelight and breath. You close your eyes and the vision comes unbidden. A cave, a handprint, a bison painted in ochre and black, the beat of a drum, the hush of a crowd, a voice rising in the dark, whispering of ancestors, of spirits, of creatures whose bones now sleep beneath the earth. The first myths are forming. They will not be accurate. They will not be scientific, but they will be sacred. And they will preserve the memory of those who came before. Even the dinosaurs, especially the dinosaurs. Because somewhere in the deep memory of these early humans, the thunder of giants still echoes. The shape of a claw, the length of a shadow, the fire in the sky. They linger, distorted by time, but remembered. And tomorrow, as they walk again, into new forests, across frozen plains, through deserts and floodlands, these people will carry it all forward. The fire, the voice, the wonder, because even though the age of dinosaurs has ended, the age of remembering has only just begun. The land is colder now. You feel it in the way the wind moves, crisper, hungrier. The sun still shines, but it hangs lower in the sky, casting longer shadows across the plain. The tribe moves with fur-lined cloaks now, stitched together from animal hides. Their pace is more cautious, their supplies more deliberate. Winter is whispering, and they are listening. As you follow them across this changing land, something feels different in the rhythm of the journey. The steps are more measured. The fires are built deeper into sheltered hollows. Children no longer wander far, and the scouts stay closer to the herd. There is a sense, faint but certain, that the world itself is growing sharper. You pass by tall stones arranged in a curious arc, weather-worn and moss-covered. You kneel and brush the dirt away from their bases. These stones were not placed by nature. They were lifted, moved, set down by hand, not randomly, but with purpose. This is memory made solid and is not yet a monument, but it's close. As you walk with them into higher altitudes, the world becomes quieter. Snow dots the ridges in patches, frost edges the leaves, but even here life goes on. The tribe adapts, wrapping their feet in grasses, rubbing animal fat on their faces, storing food underground. One morning you wake early to find a woman crouched at the edge of a shallow cave, her arms dusted in red ochre. Before her the wall ripples with painted forms, bison, deer, wolves. But one figure stands apart, tall, standing upright, arms raised to the stars, not an animal, not exactly human either, a hybrid, half man, half beast, the oldest myth. She paints with careful rhythmic movements, adding charcoal lines to its arms, then a crown of antlers to its head. The children gather behind her, whispering. You realize what this is, a spirit figure, a guardian, a symbol of connection between the animal world and the human world. Religion, primitive and wordless, has entered the scene, not fear-based but reverent. Or, scientists still argue whether religion emerged as a survival mechanism or as a byproduct of evolving consciousness. But here you see its beginning not in temples, but in pigment and reverence, in firelight flickering across cave walls, where shadows blur and stories live. That night they sit in the cave and chant, low tones, repetitive. One elder moves slowly in a circle carrying burning sage and animal bone. Others close their eyes. A child mimics the motion with a stick. They do not know gods yet, but they know ritual, and in that, a sense of order is born. The fire burns long that night, not just for warmth, but for meaning. Outside, the world breathes cold against stone. The next day, the tribe builds a windbreak from heavy rocks and fallen branches. They lash it together with sinew, wedge it against a boulder, and fill the inside with pine needles for warmth. It's more than shelter, it's architecture. They've made shelters before, hastily built, temporary, but this one feels different, more permanent, more proacid. You walk its perimeter, noting the deliberate design. Entrance facing east for morning sun, walls braced against western wind. Someone is thinking ahead. Inside, a mother is teaching her child to weave fibres into a net. Her fingers are cracked and raw, but her movements are patient. The net will hold fish, or berries, or stones. It's a tool, but also a lesson. Each knot is a piece of memory passed down through hands. You sit by the fire with them that night, watching smoke rise through a crude hole in the roof. The stars flicker above. A man stands and begins to gesture, a story it seems. He mimes a hunt, a storm, a beast that couldn't be seen but made the ground shake. The others watch closely. You recognize something in this story, a memory of the past. Perhaps it was an earthquake, or something older. You remember the great tremors that rolled through the earth when continents shifted, when lava bled across ancient forests, when dinosaurs fled thunder that came from deep within the earth. That terror lives on, encoded in gestures now. They tell stories of things they cannot name, but still they remember. Later, a child begins to imitate the storyteller, using carved stones as props, arranging them to match the movements. You realize he's recreating the tale, not just hearing it. This is early theatre. You lie down beside the fire and dreams come quickly. In them you see the bones of Stegosaurus beneath the earth, pressed in layers of sediment. You see a woman in a future you've not reached yet, holding that bone in her hand and asking, "What creature was this?" She draws it in a book, names it, teaches it to others. You smile. Even extinction cannot silence a story. The next day the tribe moves again, but slower. They carry more now, woven bags, clay bowls. One even has a carved figurine, a squat round figure with wide hips and arms cradling her belly. A fertility symbol, perhaps, or a goddess. They walk with history in their hands. As they trek across the plain, you see something astonishing, another tribe in the distance. For a moment, both groups freeze. Tension ripples through the air. And then, one man steps forward, unarmed, hands open. From the other group, a woman mirrors him. They meet in the middle. They do not speak words, but they gesture. They mimic each other. They laugh, they trade. A bundle of meat for a carved shell, a stone blade for a woven pouch. Commerce is born. And more than that, connection. Soon the tribes mix for a time. Children play together. Adults share techniques. You watch one man demonstrate how to catch fish with a net, while another shows how to trap birds with a snare. Information is flowing now, between people, between generations, between minds. This is the root of everything. Writing will come later. Books, long after that. But it begins here, with the need to share. Before parting ways, both tribes gather in a ring, a fire in the centre. One by one they rise and mimic animals, weather, battle, celebration. A ceremony, a shared story. Even without language, they are finding each other. In rhythm, in memory, in the shapes of their hands and the tilt of their heads. As they depart, you remain with your original tribe. You watch them walk beneath trees that bear no fruit in winter, through frostbitten fields, past frozen rivers where footprints mark the snow. They are heading toward the unknown, but not blindly, and they carry everything they need: fire, stories, memory, tools, each other. You realize now that the Earth has changed utterly. The world of dinosaurs, of thunder lizards and endless ferns and blood-red skies is gone. It lingers only in fossil, in bird bone, in myth, but its legacy lives on, because extinction is not the end, it is transformation. You walk with them into the dusk, toward mountains that loom like giants, and you know these humans will climb them. They will cross oceans, they will build cities and clocks and stories and machines. But the fire, the spiral on the cave wall, that will remain, even when they forget where it came from. You take one last look at the stars before the clouds roll in. Above, the constellations shift, and below, a child sings. Not words, just melody. But it is enough, because song too is memory, and the earth is still listening. Wind cuts low across the plain tonight, cold, sharp, and smelling of snow. The fires are built higher now, guarded by carefully arranged stones, fanned with bark until the embers glow deep and strong. You sit close to the flame, huddled with the tribe in their tight ring of warmth, breath fogging in the chilled air. They've come far. The land around you is unfamiliar once again, rocky uplands and pale grass, the skeletons of bare trees standing stark against a slate-coloured sky. You feel the weight of distance. This isn't the forest where they first shaped tools, or the cave where the antlered spirit was painted. This is a new place. And yet, they belong here too. You watch as they settle the evening camp. A man bends over a chunk of flint, striking it against pyrite with sure hands. The sparks catch easily. One of the children, no more than 4 or 5, fans the first curls of smoke with dried reeds. This is no longer novel, it's instruction. The child watches the coals carefully, repeating what the man does. If she gets it wrong, she adjusts. There's no punishment, only repetition. This is education, stripped to its essence. Not lecture, not memorization, but demonstration and trust. She learns by doing, by watching, by belonging. Later they share dried meat and thawed berries, passing a carved bowl around the circle. The stories begin again, familiar rhythms, familiar faces. The antlered spirit returns, a storm god, a river with 2 heads, a woman who walked into fire and came back with light. These aren't just tales to pass the time, they are cultural memory. Each one binds the group tighter. Each one teaches a lesson, caution, gratitude, courage. And as you listen, you begin to understand something deeper. They are no longer simply surviving, they are interpreting the world, and in that act, they are mastering it. A boy, thin and quiet, takes a piece of charcoal and begins to draw in the dirt beside the fire. Not a deer, not a tree, but something new, themselves. Stick figures, but with clear legs, clear arms, hands raised toward the sky, a self-portrait. The idea that you can be a subject in art is monumental. It means awareness, not just of others, but of your place in the world, of your identity, the beginnings of the self. And this realization ripples through the group in subtle ways. You see it in how they mourn now. The day before, an elder woman had grown weak, too weak to walk. She had been carried for a time, then left by a tree while the group foraged nearby. When they returned, she was gone, still breathless, folded beneath her cloak. What followed was not abandonment. It was ritual. They gathered stones and leaves and placed them gently over her form. One child placed a carved pebble near her chest. Another woman sang, low, wordless, but rhythmic. The others listened, heads bowed. They were not just acknowledging loss. They were honouring it, a burial. Some scientists once debated whether Neanderthals or early Homo sapiens buried their dead with meaning. The evidence is still unfolding, but here, among your tribe, you see the truth carved into the soil. Grief has arrived, and with it, reverence. The next morning they walk with a new silence. Not sorrowful exactly, but aware. Their pace is slower. The scouts stay closer. There is something heavy, holy, in the way they pass the burial site one last time. And when they reach the next valley, they don't speak. They listen. The wind, the birds, the earth itself. As if the world might speak back. It does, not with words, but with patterns, and you see them everywhere now. A bird's call repeated at dawn, the way moss grows only on one side of the trees, the curve of the river always bending west. These people, your people, have begun to track it all. They are reading the land. You crouch beside a man marking a tree with a blade. 3 notches, then 5, then 1. He looks up at the sky. The moon is a thin crescent tonight. He carves one more line. You watch him repeat this across several trees over several days, always tied to the moon's shape, always the same marks. Not decoration, but measurement. An early lunar calendar. He doesn't call it time, but he feels it. He knows that after so many moons the rains return, after others the cold deepens, after more the herds shift paths. He cannot write this knowledge, but he marks it, in bark, in memory. This is the first draft of history. The written word is still millennia away, but already the past is being recorded. Not in books, but in trees. You follow the tribe into a gorge where stone walls rise high, sheltering them from wind. The walls bear ancient scrapes, maybe made by glaciers, maybe by cores, maybe by the ancient hooves of beasts long since vanished. Among these they add their own. Lines, swirls, the impression of a hand pressed into ochre and slapped against rock. A signature. I was here. We were here. A child repeats the gesture, pressing both hands against the wall, then standing back to admire it. She doesn't understand its significance, but someday someone will see it and wonder. That's the point. Art is not about the now. It's a gift to the future. That night, the gorge is quiet. The wind cannot find you here. The fire glows brighter against the stone. They cook fish caught from a nearby stream. One woman cracks the bones and extracts the marrow, smearing it on a flat stone and mixing it with crushed seeds. She feeds it to a child, not as a treat, as medicine. She's seen the child's limp, the cough, and she knows this mixture helps, even if she doesn't know why. The beginnings of healing, of herbalism, of understanding the body not as divine mystery, but as something that can be cared for, a healer. The first doctor may not look like one, but her hands speak the same language, and so does the child's breath, soft and steady by firelight. When the stars return, one man begins to sing, not alone this time, but with others. Call and a response, rising and falling. Not a performance, a ritual. You recognize the melody. It's changed slightly over the weeks, but the pattern is the same. It has been passed along like a torch. It contains memories of the river, of the burial, of the hunt and the fire and the snow. It is, in essence, history set to rhythm. You close your eyes and the music drifts into your chest. You remember iguanodon cries echoing across tidal plains. You remember the hiss of early mammals in burrows, surviving underfoot while dinosaurs ruled. You remember the silence after the impact, the long winter, the waiting. And you remember the first flame, the first tool, the first story. Now in this gorge you hear it all woven into music. One child begins to hum it in her sleep. You smile. The future is humming back. As the fire burns low, the tribe settles into sleep, heads tucked into each other's shoulders, warmth shared between bodies and memory. You lie back and watch the sparks lift into the dark, rising toward the stars, fading one by one. Each ember is a moment, a gesture, a first. This isn't the end of the journey, but it is the edge, the point at which memory becomes myth, the threshold between prehistory and history. You close your eyes and feel the world turning gently beneath you, still alive with change, still echoing the footsteps of creatures long gone, still whispering their names through bone and breath and starlight. The age of giants is long past, but its echoes, they walk beside you still. Morning opens slowly, soft and cool, with a mist that hugs the valley floor like memory. Dew clings to every blade of grass, every woven cloak and hand-carved bowl. You wake with the tribe, not with the jolt of danger, but with the hush of ritual. There is no urgency, only readiness. Today they are not just moving, they are departing. The gorge has been home for many cycles of the moon. It has sheltered them from storms and snow, held their stories in stone, nurtured their fire and their faith. But now the air tastes different. The hunters say the herds are shifting, the berries have dwindled, the stream has grown thin and slow, and it is time to move on. And so they prepare, carefully, reverently, not in haste, but with deep attention. You watch them dismantle their lean-tos, bundle the nets, wrap the sacred bowls and spirit stones in hide. One child cradles a small clay figure, the antlered spirit in miniature, tucked into a pouch against her chest. This is not just migration, this is ceremony. Leaving a place now means more than walking away, it means saying goodbye. It means carrying part of it with you, not just in tools or food, but in meaning. The old woman who sang at the burial site lingers at the stone wall where the handprints remain. She adds one more, her own pressed in silence, then turns and walks away without looking back. She knows the memory will remain. As they climb out of the gorge, you see the tribe pause often. One man stops to mark a tree. A woman leaves a braid of dried grasses at a fork in the path, not for utility, but for others, for those who will come after. A gift to the future, because they are no longer just surviving in their moment, they are participating in time, and this, more than anything, is the final quiet miracle. That the beings who once huddled in trees to avoid raptors now look to the future not in fear but in faith. You crest a rise with them and see the land unfurl, broad and golden, mountains far beyond, rivers like ribbons, smoke rising from distant camps. You're not alone, others are out there. More people, more memory, more fire, and from here you can almost hear the echoes. Stone turned to blade, hands shaped into art, ashes marked with sorrow, dreams named with stars. This is the world becoming human, and the earth remembers. You step into the plain and feel it beneath your feet, the weight of ancient bones buried deep below. Hadrosaur, Triceratops, Ankylosaurus, forgotten giants resting beneath fields of wheat and stone, and somehow their stories still echo, not in roars but in rhythms, not in bone but in belief. You walk beside the children as they skip over rocks, tracing spirals in the dirt with sticks. They draw creatures they've never seen, horns and tails and wings. They invent, they remember, even if they don't understand what lives in those memories. Perhaps they've found fossilized bones. Perhaps they've heard a story passed from another tribe, retold 100 times, reshaped with each voice. A dragon, a thunder beast, a spirit of the deep earth. It doesn't matter if the science is precise, the wonder is enough. One day, a future mind will look at those old myths and see shadows of truth. They'll dig beneath the soil, brush away sediment, and find the jawbone of a creature that once ruled the world. They'll marvel, they'll name it, they'll write it into books. But right now, here, in this timeless moment, a girl draws that same creature into the dirt, and another adds wings, and a third pretends to run from it laughing. And in their laughter, the past is not lost. It lives again. You sit with the tribe one last night beneath an open sky, fire flickering low, stars painting stories across the darkness. They are still forming rituals, still inventing songs, still gesturing to the heavens and wondering. You wonder with them. Where did we come from? What lives beneath the soil? What follows death? What causes lightning? The questions are not answered, but they are held gently, proudly, as part of the human inheritance. You listen to the low hum of their sleep, steady breathing, limbs curled together, like wolves in a den, like roots in soil. Their minds stretch across generations now. Parents teach children who will become parents who will teach again. And what they pass down is more than skill. It is soul. You rise quietly and walk into the dark for a moment of stillness. Above, the stars shimmer in absolute silence. The Milky Way is so bright you almost reach for it. You remember the meteors that once scorched the skies, the volcanic ash that blackened the sun. the night when the age of dinosaurs ended with fire. And yet, the Earth continued, and now this species, so fragile, so soft-skinned, so vulnerable, is shaping the world not with teeth or claws, but with story. They are the keepers now of memory, of fire, of sky. You return to the fire one last time, the embers pulse like a heartbeat. A child stirs in her sleep, whispering nonsense syllables, but even nonsense contains the seed of language. Tomorrow they'll walk onward, toward the rising sun, toward forests and rivers and places they've never seen. Some will stay, some will split off, or I will forget this night entirely, but the flame will be carried forward. You close your eyes. The earth breathes beneath you, layered with bones and dreams. You remember the dawn of reptiles, the golden age of dinosaurs, the thunder of asteroid impact, the rise of mammals, the shivering birth of memory, and now this, a species that sings the past. And with that, your journey nears its end. They walk on, and you let them go, but they no longer need a guide. They are becoming their own storytellers, their own historians, their own scientists, mystics, parents, and poets. Because the age of remembering is here, and it will never end. Word count, 1 to 100. And now, the fire is low. You lie there still and warm as the sky lightens behind your eyelids. The final echoes of this long journey whisper through your thoughts, not in roars or footfalls, but in soft breath, in quiet awe. You've walked across eras tonight. You've felt the earth shake with titanic footsteps. You've flown with feathered ancestors, slept beneath stars uncounted, watched the world remake itself again and again. And through it all, one question has burned in the quiet spaces. How did we get here? Not just in time or place, but in meaning. The answer perhaps is this: we remember, even when we forget the names, even when the bones turn to dust, we remember. In stories passed around the fire, in lines scratched into stone, in lullabies hummed without knowing why, in myths that are more true than facts. Memory survives where bone does not, and now so do you, wrapped in that same legacy, cradled by the same earth that once cradled T-Rex, that once scorched the skies and birthed 1,000 dawns. So let your breath slow, let your thoughts soften, let the stories settle in your chest like embers, and drift. Because the dinosaurs are not gone. Not really. They live on, in birdsong, in dreams, in you. Good night, traveller of time. We'll meet again at the next fire. Sweet dreams.